Evening and welcome to the Gin and Tonic show on Friday, the 14th of July. It's Rob and I'm here with my co-host Abu and Ike. And Ike will be sharing with us some fascinating information on pre-Islamic Arabia. So I'm guessing that there'll be a bit of a history lesson in there for all of us. So I'm very interested. I don't know much about this. So let's get straight into it so that I can share this. I think he's got quite a lot to share, some great valuable information. So, Ike, if you're there, I will mute myself and over to you, my good sir.
He'll come in soon, I think.
Maybe he's not there. Ike, as soon as you're ready, just unmute yourself and give us a holler. Myself and Abu will speak for a moment, but feel free to...
Give me 1 more minute. I have to get my tea, it says.
Ah, there we go. Sorry. Yep. I've got it down on a very small screen here, so I'm not seeing that so clearly. I wonder what tea means for Ike, because over here in the UK, tea for people in north of England means dinner. Tea for me means traditionally like English tea at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where you have like literally a cup of tea. But for some people, it actually means dinner. It's like crazy.
I think it means the liquor tea. You have to.
Oh, okay, Dax. Evening pull-ups, PJ, hope you guys are well. Good evening, Stops.
Hey guys.
Just waiting for Ike to have his tea, whatever that means. Abu has given us an example, so we'll see what it means for Ike. I think you and I, Stops, coming from down south originally. Tea is like you'd have something at 3 o'clock, and you literally have like rooibos tea or some kind of tea to drink.
With cucumber sandwiches.
There you go. But here in England, especially in the north of England, tea is dinner. And it might mean something else for Ike and some guys in Europe.
Okay, that's a good chance. I'll go and get a beer.
Get a beer, there you go. Okay. Stops
also with good leaves, except that these are called hops, I think.
Yes, hops. That's right. Good evening, you what, mate? Mate. There's probably a better way to say that. You what, mate? Mate, yes. You what, mate? Cool. We are just waiting for Ike to grab his tea and Stops to grab the hops. I like that. Stops, grab your hops.
Any like news this week?
On the Islamic side, not a lot. I just saw something now on YouTube about, I don't know how recent it was, but there was some commentary on an interview that Tommy Robinson did with Piers Morgan. On rare occasions, Piers Morgan seems to be coherent, and on other occasions, it's just like, I don't know if like somebody else has invaded his body, and it's like a different person speaking that looks like Piers Morgan, but he is, and I say it on rare occasions, can kind of speak coherently, and then on other occasions it's just like you're speaking to a ranting child, or I'm listening to a ranting child, and that's not to say that Robinson doesn't kind of get in your face with a lot of people, but Morgan is just, I don't know how they can have him on. I think maybe because he's just controversial, but the words that are coming out of his mouth is just not somebody that I expect from like an adult, particularly an editor. You know, you would expect them to just think more clearly, but I don't think that's his strength, is not thinking clearly. It's just like ranting and whatever comes out his mouth in the moment without any sort of thought at all. So I was fascinated.
Body thetans.
Yeah, body thetans. Yeah, that's right. Taking it over there. So I didn't actually watch the interview, but I just saw like Douglas Murray commenting on it, and something about Morgan telling Robinson to respect the Qur'an. I mean, of all the crazy things to say, you know, that's certainly one of them.
Guys, I'm here.
Good evening, Ike.
Oh, you got your teeth.
What is your tea? What is tea for you, Ike?
What is tea? What do you mean?
Is it like a tea drink like English tea, or is it like a dinner, like something to eat, or what does tea mean for you?
No, it's to drink, normal tea.
Oh, okay, good. So you're the same as some of us, yes.
No, because put, like 6 bags of these small little tea bags in 1 liter, and boil it up. And yeah, that should be enough 1 liter of tea for this evening.
Okay, that'll get you through the evening. Brilliant. BJ is saying hi.
Hi, everybody. I have to know, am I too loud or too soft? Or...
No, you're coming through clear and medium volume, so all good.
Okay.
Right, I'll mute myself, sir. I have done an introduction for you already, so over to you.
Fine. Just put the screen onto me so that that will show it up for everybody on YouTube. Just
I
click
think
on
you're
it.
showing now.
Because
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you're
showing
displaying now. All yours. Go for it.
You are showing now.
Okay, now good. The title is Islam, Nothing Special Here. Before we get to the interesting parts of the part and the rituals themselves and how they were transferred into Islam by simple rubber stamping and declaring them halal and God-given, we need to take a step back and understand how nomads in the desert of Arabia saw their gods when at an oasis and how these were eventually merged into a single god. Even though I'm using sources which are in German, I will nevertheless cite them accurately. So when we investigate these hypotheses, we need to keep an open mind here without clinging to old ideas. After all, we are looking at concepts which are neither rational nor logical and which can't be approached using common sense. It might be possible that the people at the time considering them, at that time, meaning the ancient times, considered them to be irrational and logical, but our advanced experiences and new discoveries, insights, and knowledge today shows they were wrong. But we should not forget that cultures and civilizations spawn ideas which can spread and endure centuries and even millennia. No paper from China, no printing press. No Turkish gardens, no gnomes. No Germany, no lasers. No USA, no railguns. No Sumerians, no hours, minutes, and seconds. No Malawi, no Homo sapiens. While the printing press and its ability to capture and record human thoughts might be more useful for mankind than gnomes, but we are talking about the conception and distribution of ideas. That we get gnomes almost everywhere, and hardly any nation goes without a printing press. The endeavor to capture ideas and presenting them within a culture and society has been present forever within humans. So old ideas clash with new ones. If you respect your ancestors, you can't simply abandon old ideas completely. On the other hand, you come across new ideas with added value, be it politically, societal, religiously, financially, or which simply increases your personal power. If we stick to Islam, we can immediately recognize these thoughts, remnants bumping into new ideas in the Quran. Let me pull this up. In Surah 3725. Do you call upon Baal and leave the best of creators? It acknowledged the old God, while rejecting them due to their lack of power, respecting ancient ideas with the advantages of a single divine source. Islamopists and apologists do their best to convince us that the Islam is the final, undeniable, and original religion, the one which has remained true to its origins. A religion which really does come from a true God instead of simply adopting previous cultures. Yet seriously upholding this claim simply demonstrates childish, stubborn attitude. It's an adminiscence of actual intellectual bankruptcy. It's just as ludicrous as saying the Jesus story was falsified and it was actually Jerry Siegel and his Superman figure Clark Kent who accurately portrayed a moral superhuman. As even in the Quran we read in Surah 3:87, 78, sorry. And indeed, there is among them a party who altered the scriptures with their tongues. So you may think it's from the scripture, but it is not from the scripture. And they say, this is from Allah, but it's not from Allah. And they speak untruth about Allah while they know. Let me just see. I think I've chosen the wrong resolution here. Now it should be a little bit smoother and clearer to read.
Looking good, yeah.
As even in the Quran, like I showed, the scripture was altered by the Jews and the Christians, corrupted by them, so to say. Old thoughts meet new ideas. Basically, we can't ever be allowed to forget what novel ideas is represented by Islam. The main criteria for people in the 7th century, somewhere in Arabia, which gathered more and more momentum. The idea itself was not actually new, as it was already being lived by people further north. The idea of a monotheistic power rather than the polytheistic one. This idea, however, collided with older thoughts. This collision is represented in the Hadith and the biography of the Arabic prophet Abu al-Qasim ibn Abdullah ibn Muttalib, aka Muhammad, and is constantly mentioned there. Initially, this collision of the novel ideas is rather passive, only declared and unable to be enforced. It even presents itself as docile in order to be propagated in spite of the existence of differing authority. There is no alternative but to accept the old thoughts to enable the survival of the new ideas. With growing acceptance by society and members, the collision is modified into an active one. Still peaceful, but no longer quiet. All thoughts can now be declared as lies. Once the support increases again, you now have the possibility to counter the old thoughts using violence. This neither means that the new ideas are in any way superior to the old thoughts or that they are more correct, nor does it mean that all thoughts are based on facts. The mechanism of this approach of mixing of ideas within civilization is, and probably always will be similar. History is written by the winners. Just remember that in principle, you don't really get any drastical new, but merely a denser acceptance of ideas. And I have to interrupt here and just to ask, am I clear? Do you understand me? Is everything okay? Are you falling asleep by this?
All good. We can hear you clearly.
If a question comes up which is important, you think, just ask. You can interrupt, but
what I'm doing is I'm actually putting them into our chat here. So I'm picking them up off the main thing, and then I'll ask you at the end, and then we can discuss those. I want you to stay on here and not get distracted.
Okay. Back to Islam itself. I mentioned that this new idea was the one God. Yet for most Muslims, you have additional criteria to make Islam Islam. Some know the Quran. They get the pilgrimage to a specific place of rituals. Circumambulation of a small building, sacrifices, methods of communicating with God, and promises. Bartering with a god that you pledge to do something in return for what a god did for you. These pledges, even thought they were not strictly addressing a monotheistic god, were creeping into the Quran in the early days. The submissive phase, it is quite obvious that polytheism was used to attract followers for the new idea. So in other words, attracting the old thoughts towards a new idea. Why is this 2 times? I slipped that. That's stop spamming false, by the way. No. To prepare a smooth transition, pledges were directed towards known and established objects, yet are in stark contrast to the envisaged goals of monotheism. In the anachronistic order of ordering sequences of the Quran, they can be found more towards the end of today's Quran. Now I have to pull up the next. Now I can't read myself, just a second. So, like you see in the later part of today's Quran, this strange startings in the different surahs. Surah 85:1, by the sky containing great stars, meaning somebody, if you have to take it seriously, it is God somehow swearing by the sky containing the stars. Same in 86:1, by the sky and the night comer. 89:1, by the dawn. 90.1, I swear by the city, Makkah. 91.1, by the sun and its brightness. 92.1, by the night when it covers, and it goes on with the next one.
Can I comment one thing on?
Comment one.
I swear by this city, Mecca. Actually, in Arabic, it's bihad al-balad, which means by this land. So Mecca is added by Sahih International. It's not even a city. Balad means land.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter. The thing is,
but like from an historical point of view, if the Quran was from the time of Muhammad, it doesn't say Mecca, it say bihad al-balad, which means by this land.
Even better. You see, God is swearing by this land, and we don't know which land it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, fine. Where was I? Okay. Well, just remember that these are probably the oldest one. These are the relics of polytheism and are probably some of the oldest verses we will find in the Quran. What is important for Muslims is not only the Quran, but also the rituals. But in what way are the rituals actually grounded in Islam? The most commonly known one is most probably the prayer. But how exactly do Muslims know how to pray? Nowhere in the Quran, nor in the Hadith or biography for that matter, can you find any clear instruction on how to pray. Only the importance of praying itself, and it is prescribed is constantly repeated. Now and again, we get fragments of rules like using sand instead of water, or that water should be drawn up the nose to flush out the Satan, the little booger demon hiding your nose. The movements and the sequences themselves are not described. To go down on your knees is not an accurate description in itself. How long should you follow up with a moonwalk? How many times can you safely scratch your balls or your bum? How many times you should bend over? The Quran only instructs you to pray, but not how. The Hadith tell us, as an example, that women cannot participate during menstruation, but not how to pray. Okay, so let's apply logics here. Either prayers and their processes were known at their time, or the physical sequences were specified over decades or even centuries. Most probably it was a mix of both. A basic prayer system was known, to the bending over for a god and rubbing your face in the dirt, and then later more and more details were added and established themselves. So where did this old thought of praying come from? Keep this in mind, and don't forget that the following is still about prayer. How can we establish where the authors and developers of Islam took the understanding of prayer? Islam often refers to the monotheistic concept of a God already present with Jews and Nazarenes. So Jews and Christians. So Jews and Christians must have the practice of prayer on offer. So one could think, problem solved. But the Jews and the Christian prayers are, at least today, vastly different. Jews can rock themselves into a trance, whereas Christians only manage to get on their knees if they are hardcore believers. So it can't be this. Let's look at the Quran again. 262. Indeed, those who believe and those who were Jews or Christian or Sabaeans before Prophet Muhammad, those among them who believe in Allah and the last day did righteousnesses, will have their reward with their Lord, and no fear will there be concerning them, nor will they grieve. The next one is similar, 569. Indeed, those who have believed in Prophet Muhammad, not really in Prophet Muhammad, and those before him who were Jews or Sabaeans, Christians, those among them who believed in Allah and the last day and did righteousness, no fear will there be concerned them, nor will they grieve. Again one. Indeed, those who have believed and those who were Jews and the Sabaeans and the Christians and the Magians and those who associated with Allah, Allah will judge between them and on the day of resurrection. Indeed, Allah is over all things witness. 34:15. There was for the tribe of Saba in their dwelling place a sign, 2 fields of gardens, and on the right and on the left. They were told, eat from the provisions of your Lord and be grateful to him. A good land have you and a forgiving Lord. So we have 3 times this Sabaeans and 1 time just the tribe of Saba. Sabaeans, and Saba. This is where it gets complicated. Even experienced theologians mix up the tribal assignments, but we shouldn't be too harsh with them. This confusion originates in the Quran itself, because Saba and Sabaeans are not the same at all, while Sabaeans are indeed from Saba. I don't know if it's clear, but let me write it on the screen just for a second. Or no, just look. This is how it's portrayed in the Quran. Can I zoom? Yes, I can zoom it easy. Okay. You see these Sabaeans are mentioned 3 times, and the Saba thing just 1 time. But these are not the same. That's where the problem gets where it gets complicated. While Sabaeans are indeed from Saba, the Quran somehow got this wrong and mixed everything up over time. The Sabaeans in the Qurans are actually the Sabaeans with an I, not with an E. Maybe theologians have heard of the Sabaeans, but did not bother to check. The other form, the problem is I don't know how exactly to spell it or to pronounce it. Come on, what's wrong here? So,
can you show the word on screen?
Yeah, I'm doing. Just have to resize it here. So now it's. So that's the other thing. So what is described in the Quran, this, well, at least in Sahih International, this Zaba E ends with an E instead of an I. It is wrong, like in Sahih International. It has to be Sabaeans, and the reason is, we'll get more clear just a moment. As already mentioned, you need to abandon the idea that humans developed locally, along with their religion and culture. This is only the case in remote and closed regions such as Australia and Madagascar. Indications that the Sabaeans with an E are actually the Sabaeans with an I is apparent when looking at the first two verses. Let me go back to the first two so that you understand what I mean. These are the first two I spoke up. The Nazarenes and the Jews. Nazareth was a tiny area. People did not travel far from there. When taking the Quran as a text and the book as a whole, it gets a bit clearer. We have the Christoph Luxemburg textual analysis in Syro-Aramaic showing the origins to be somewhere in the Fertile Crescent, in the northern part of the Arabian Peninsula. Then you have the written language, which might have its origins in Mandaic, as is suggested by Sergio Noceda. This is what he has written about Mandaic scripture, and who were the originators and developers of this scripture. The information that traditions give regarding the specializations of the three personalities, namely that Muramir, son of Marwa, conceived the shape of the letters, Aslan, son of Sidra, defined the way of writing them separately or joined, and Amir, son of Gadara, invented the diacritical points. Meaning these three persons were the source of or the pre-source of the Quranic writing with diacritical points, etc. for later. Mandeans were indigenous to the northern region of the Arabian Peninsula. So we have 2 pointers here. The spoken language, which left traces in the Arabian language, as is demonstrated by Luxemburger, and the written language influenced by Mandaic, both residing primarily in the Levant and eastern regions, i.e. Iraq. Let's take a quick look at Luxemburger and his book, Die Syro-Aramaische Lesenart des Korans.
But Ike, sorry, just as a question, when we're talking about Muramir and Aslam and all these people, what time frame are we talking about here?
This is it's not clear when it doesn't mention in the book clearly.
But do we know anything about the son of who Marwa was when he lived?
I would have to read the whole chapter again.
Okay, so it's not in there. This is why I was asking, because for me this is a lot later than pre-Islamic.
Well, depends when you say Islam is there. I mean, before 8th century, it isn't really there. So that's a problem.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's true. It depends on your reference point.
But let's just watch a little clip where it is talked about the Syro-Aramaic scripture and the wording and how Christoph Luxemburger looked upon this linguistics stuff.
In 2001, Puin's conclusions were taken one dangerous step further. A book appeared written by an expert in early Semitic languages. It was so controversial that the author published under the pseudonym Christoph Luxemburg, and will only speak on condition that his identity remains concealed.
Unbedingt erforderlich, den Koran neu zu lesen.
In order to understand it correctly, we need a fundamentally new interpretation and reading of the Quran.
Dr. Marcus Gross helped to translate the book from its original German into English and is willing openly to express the author's views.
A quarter or a fifth of the Quran contains words which have been misunderstood, or words which don't make real sense. That number can be vastly reduced with a knowledge of Syriac to, let's say, 5%.
Syriac, or Syrio-Aramaic, had become one of the dominant languages of Christian liturgy by the 3rd century. Christ spoke Aramaic, and it can still be heard in remote Christian communities like this town of Malula in Syria. But at the time of Muhammad, Syrio-Aramaic was the major written and cultural language of the whole region. Written Arabic was in its infancy.
There are pre-Islamic inscriptions in Arabic, very short texts, but the first real book written in Arabic is the Quran.
But Luxemburg is saying the Quran is written in 2 languages.
In many areas in the world, languages mix constantly, all the time. To make it understandable to a speaker of English, you have to go back about 1,000 years. Imagine the Anglo-Saxon peasant talking to his master, who was a Norman and spoke a mixed language of French and an Anglo-Saxon. And you could only understand that mixed language with a knowledge of both.
Muslim scholars of the past had the confidence to acknowledge foreign words in the Quran. In the 10th century, Al-Tabari, one of the most respected commentators, identified Hebrew, Latin, Greek, Persian, Abyssinian, and Syriac words. The difference, though, is that Luxemburg is claiming new meanings, and at a time when critical examination of the text is actively discouraged. How can one professor of linguistics challenge the collective judgment of over 1 billion people, and on what basis? What methods does he use?
Ich bin natürlich bemüht, zunächst einmal
I take into consideration the meaning of the root, of the corresponding root in Syriac, or a possible misreading. Misreading in this case means that the undotted text was dotted wrongly. Then there's also the possibility that a Syriac letter was by mistake written within an Arabic text.
Using these methods, Luxemburg examined some of the most obscure passages of the Quran. After Mary has given birth to Jesus, in the Arabic Quran, the archangel says to her, "Be not sad, your Lord has placed a rivulet beneath you." In Luxemburg's version, "Be not sad, your Lord has made your delivery legitimate." And there are other examples. God's command to a skeptic in Arabic, "Look at your food and drink, look at your ass," becomes "Look at your condition and look at your overall state." At the end of the world, the earth steps forward in Arabic. In Syriac, the earth splits open.
Later comes a second clip, just to show you more stuff. So where the Sabaeans located? The Sabaeans, also known as the star worshippers. Today we think that they came from southern Turkey. It even gets more clear if you listen to Tom Holland and the originates of Islam. He also mentions parts of the Quran where you see that the Quran talks to people who clearly are living in the places there. So it was not talking to the Maccaeans at all. It just becomes more and more obvious that it is text itself, that the telling of these stories is more located in the north. So what does this have to do with anything, you may ask? You are not confused enough, but relax. I, the magnificent Ike, will manage to confuse you even more. Let's take a step back, but don't forget the story with Saba and the Sabaeans and the Sabaeans. What does the Muslim tradition tell you about the highest god of the Kaaba prior to Islam? Like you are seeing now in Hadith, and it is a long one. Who wants to read it? I don't want to read it. One of you guys can read it.
Stop. Tafadhal, stop.
Maybe it's away. It's very small there as well, Ike. Can you make it bigger?
No, come on. Well, you can read it, but this is a huge text. Come on. We face the pagans on the day, we face the battle, and archers pointed out, do not leave this place. This is this battle thing where he says, we placed a batch of archers and do not leave this place. So when we faced the enemy, they took to the heel. So I see the women running towards the mountain, lifting up their clothes from the legs, revealing their leg bangles. This leg bangles thing is very, very important because this appears in the Quran actually as women stomping their feet to make themselves heard. So the Muslims are saying, the booty, the Prophet has taken a firm promise from me not to leave this place, but his companions refused to stay. So when they refused to stay there, Allah confused them, so they didn't know where to go, and they suffered 70 casualties. Muhammad present, do not answer. It is the son of do not answer him. And then the important part is on that Umar could not help saying, you are a liar, O enemy of Allah. Allah has kept what will make you unhappy. And then Abu Sakr said, superior may be Hubal. On that the Prophet said to his companions, reply to him. And they said, what may we say? He said, Allah is more elevated and more majestic. So we have Al-Utsa, whereas you have no Utsa. The Prophet said, reply to him. They said, what may we say? The Prophet said, say, Allah is our helper and you have no helper. This day compensates for our loss at Badr, and in the battle is always undecided. Share to terms, you will see some of your dead may mutilate another. This is the whole story of battles there. The people are saying, okay, we have a God, and the Muslims are always saying, well, our God is better than your God because he's got, I don't know, longer hair or something.
Thank you for your fast reading. Let's, where was I? Why should a Muslim who is fighting for a new prophet and who knows what he is preaching worship a different God and thank him for the victory? Well, it is not a real Muslim, but it is known, this Hubal. That's the point. Well, it was Hubal, respectfully called the master of the Kaaba or lord of the Kaaba, instead of simply Hubal normally. Only if you are in enthusiasm and in thinking you are victorious, you will call him by names, so to say. Since the Meccans all knew of him, so there was no need to describe him. Everyone knew the primary God. It was probably a sign of transition where the pantheon and the highest member of this pantheon were morphed into a single God, bar a name or identifier. That Hubal was considered to be the God. It is shown where even the name of the father of Muhammad, Abdullah for short, Abdullah's short form, Abd Allah as formal notation. Allah itself is a squeezed word. Anyone involved knows this should be Al-Ilah, the God. So even before the final prophet, with the final and unalterable, protected by Allah revelation, entered the scene of the Abrahamic gods, the Meccans must have had, according to their own Islamic narration, an overreaching God figure, one they called simply the God, and which was responsible for the name of Muhammad's dad, slave of God, Abdullah. The claim that this is the same God as the one with Adam and Eve, Moses and Jesus is easily refuted by reading the Islamic stories described its own history. Many hadiths described what it was like pre-Islam, but the most straightforward description with some degree of chronology telling us about Muhammad and his worship of the number one and highest god of the Kaaba is the biography of Ibn Hisham, who says he is repeating Ibn Ishaq to some extent. Here we learn about Muhammad's grandpa, who swore by the God of the Kaaba, knowing today that this was not the same and only God Muslims so generously talk about today. Also in this biography we read about transmission of requests which were sent to Hubal via so-called divining arrows. A game of chance, but that's how it is with fate. It's always some sort of superstitions too. Let's get a bit more specific and look at what Muhammad's grandpa was swearing by. He, Al-Muttalib, swore by the Lord of the Kaaba that if he gave him 10 sons to take care of him in old age, he would sacrifice one of them, one of his sons, as a small thanks. And now he had 10 sons. And when he let chance decide, it was Muhammad's dad who was supposed to be sacrificed. So, being a deluded and crazy religionist, he wanted to kill his son and was only stopped by the rest of his tribe and his other sons in the nick of time. They suggested he should first postpone some blood money instead. Can anyone spot the similarity here to Abraham and his sacrifice, his almost sacrifice of the son, and the stopping by the angels, etc.? But the slightly amusing part here is that in our story, Muttalib had to go to Medina and ask an oracle for advice, travel back to Mecca, and now start sacrificing 10 camels until another arrow went towards the camels instead towards to the sun, indicating that after 10 rounds of killing camels, Hubal was happy with the 100 camels instead of a boy. In summary, we have a foreign woman in a foreign city decided how to manipulate and the pledge until Muttalib could feel he did enough. Secondly, we have Hubal, who must have wanted this Abdullah dead after he had a 1 in 10 chance of being selected in the first place. Thirdly, we can't ignore that it was Hubal, a god, who accepted the 100 camels. So before we take a closer look at Hubal, I'd like to point out that it was supposed to have been the Quraysh and the family of Muhammad who were responsible for taking care of Hubal and the Kaaba. Administrative control over the region changed over time, of course. It seems though that it was always a specific family who had done this. The family, the ancestors of Muhammad. Whether or not Muhammad himself physically existed or not is irrelevant. Anyone can claim a bloodline. Something we see with the legend of Jesus Christ. From a historical perspective, there is no evidence for the existence of either of them. What is interesting, though, is that we have an elite stemming from this anyway. There is no account of any Muttalib's other sons. So it seems to the bloodline dried up. We only seem to have Muhammad left over, and then his daughter Fatima as legal heiress, who could pass on the authority over the Kaaba in Mecca. Who then is the legal entity administering the Kaaba? Again, not Mecca, but just the Kaaba. The holy and forbidden place, which was supposed to have been in the care of Muhammad's family. Maybe one should ask Karim Aga Khan the fourth. This is this guy here. He's not a prince or a king of a nation, but a leader of a religious nature, and one of the richest people on the planet. And he claims to be a descendant of Fatima, the only child of Muhammad who have lived for an extended period of time. Did he inherit as a Shia from the Hashemites, or is it more likely that he and his clan received some part of everything spent at the Kaaba even today? It's not perfectly clear where all this money comes from, but personally I think it is safe to assume his alleged bloodline is making him a very rich man, and this will continue as long as people visit Mecca and the Kaaba. If one of you is bored, maybe you can research the relationship between him and the Saudis. Back to Hubal. What else do we know about this god? Surprisingly little, nothing tangible. We don't have any solid sources that what the name Hubal means, where it comes from, and how it got to Mecca. All we know is that it represents the moon. Looking at the name, people have tried to connect it to Baal in Babylon, but except for the positions of power, there are no parallels and similar attributes to be seen. Baal was not a moon god, that is clear. The name Hubal is supposed to have been merged from Hu and Baal, as in God Lord. So the Nabateans must have been more of a source here, and or at least provided some inspiration for the pantheon of Meccans. Nabateans knew Manat, Usa, and Allat, so I checked what sources Wikipedia had to offer for Hubal. The German page drew a blank, but the English page had more to say, albeit modern sources, which must be based on the same speculation as everyone else when it comes to Islam. I did, however, bump into a source which referred me to the Encyclopedia of Islam edition 2, Brill. One would think that such an encyclopedia should be available as PDF on the net. That's what I thought. Anyway, and yes, it is available by Brill itself. However, my motivation to dish out $40 to the Dutch for a one-day access for a simple and quick research was somehow limited. Just to be thorough, I checked what such an encyclopedia would cost me. After all, I thought have access to wealth of knowledge, but the cost of around $5,000 to $10,000 dampened my enthusiasm. Not an option. But I still needed to know what was available to provide me with some concentrated academic knowledge. So I checked what libraries offered this book, and I found one. But this was a huge disappointment. This is what the entry of Hubal looks like. Okay, this is a little bit small, but it's like 2 pages in whole. Let me, yeah, then that now you can read it, or let's say you can see it. It's just mentioned Hubal in a short little mini chapter, what's it about, etc. Ignoring my brilliant photography with my phone from the book, this is an actual picture took from my phone of the book. I've done a good work. And by the way, I forgot to tell everybody this. If for some reason you want to read this whole presentation by yourself and all these sources and pictures, etc., the link is in the lower left corner. This shortcut link from Google, and you can download it for yourself, the whole thing with all slides, all pictures, the small clips, etc., for later. Where was I? Yes, this page for Hubal. Ignoring my brilliant photography with the phone from the book, the entry on Hubal is scanty and hardly informative. The contents talks about a one-armed god worshipped as Bathail, meaning a stone cult. It was made of cornelian. What pisses me off was that this grand expertise from this overpriced encyclopedia only referred to the Bible as a source. great. Like you see here in Judges 3:15 and 20:16. So when I came home, I wanted to verify the references. Science and Encyclopedia is only a collection of references. This should be enlightening and unambiguous. Even if it did want to use the Bible as a source and evidence. And this is where where a foreign nations disappointed came up, because in those two passages you see this, what's in the Bible, what is referred to the Bible. Oh, now it's too big. Wait a second. So again, the Israelites cried out loud out to the Lord, and he gave them a deliverer, Ehud, a left-handed man, the son of Garad, the Benjamites. The Israelites sent him with tributes to Eglon, king of Moab. And then in Judges 20:16 you read, among all these soldiers there were 700 selected troops who were left-handed, each of whom could slide a stone at a hair and not miss. Only because Hubal is depicted with only a left hand, they refer to left-handers in the Bible. Even in the wider context within the Bible, I could not find any connection between Hubal and with these passages in the Bible should be a reference in the passage of this encyclopedia. The only verifiable references which could shed some light on this was Ferdinand Wüstenfeld's Kitab Akhbar Makkah. This is this one. That's when I asked our Scandinavian boy, scholar, scholar is mentioned by Stop Spamming. He wanted to be nicer than me, Abu Moli, to translate the Arabic passage. What I got was not a lot, because we are not told how Ibn Hisham, or Ibn Ishaq, so to say, arrived at their description, and even more importantly, in which of his own texts he remarked that Al-Asraqi can use Ibn Ishaq as source. I mean, this little passage you see, Hubal was made of agate pearls, on the image of the man of man, meaning he looked like a man, and his right hand was broken. So Quraysh reached it. So the Quraysh, made for him a hand of gold. And he had a closet offering, and to it was 7 healers, that he was hitting over that one. And the virgin and marriage, and his closet was protection for the camel, and to it was a brow, and was almost when they came to Hubal with offerings. They beat the healers and said, I differ, so blow the redemption. It's just a ritual, like Abu described it. So even here, it doesn't say much about this god, but that he was only left-handed and got a golden hand, a right one later off. Let's leave the physical description of a Hubal figurine in the Kaaba and investigate how this moon god made its way to Mecca. There is no doubt that Hubal represents a moon god. His partner or spouse is Alat, or rather the female form Alat, who represents the sun. Not every culture has a male moon and a female sun. Sometimes it's the opposite. A pretty intense moon worship seems to have been present with the Hittites from southeast Turkey. They were involved in wars with the Egyptians right from the beginning, and later were their arch enemies of the Israelites. The God of the Israelites even ordered the extinction of the Hittites, as can be seen in Moses 5, Moses book 5, chapter 17. Archaeological findings have been able to verify this culture, this Hittite culture. Not only the existence of the Hittites was verified, we also have clay tablets with cuneiform sentence on them in the Hittite language. This is not related to Sumerians, but an Indo-Germanic language. This shows how universal this type of lettering was, as it could be adapted to different language, much like the Latins of today. So I need just a little sip. Maybe we can make a little break here and take some question, or should I go further?
I can comment something on Salah while you're taking.
Yeah, what you mean?
No, this is maybe not in the same serious level. I'm just can show some videos, like if you want to know what the kind of inspiration of the Muslim Salah, where it may come from.
How long will that be? Because it might be we just do that at the end, Abu.
No, but he wanted to take a sip. He wanted to take a short break.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure he's going to be.
No,
like
no, it's not long. I'm just showing. This takes just I can make it 30 seconds if you want.
We are in the middle of my text, pretty much exactly in the middle.
Okay, no, it's not. No, it's not important. You can take it later. But I thought if you want to take a short break.
I'm guessing it's like a short break, as in like 30 seconds, Ike, or?
No, some minutes. Maybe I have to look some question up. What were the questions?
So one of the questions was, who are they? Who are they? Those Jews and Titans? Titans, yeah.
Christians. You mean Christians?
And this was like much more in the beginning of your talk.
This was from MK. What you meant by this question? Who were they? Are they those?
I'm guessing he's meaning who are those Jews and Titans?
Christians. Who were the Jews and Christians at the pre-Islamic time around about Mecca? Were there any Christians or Jews there? Do we have any records of them?
No, this was the whole point at the beginning where I showed where I read this four verses of the Qur'ans. I mentioned this because it is talked about three groups at least: the Jews, the Christians, and the Sabaeans. And if you look, the Jews, they were not really deep into Arabia, and I even think even in Medina they weren't in the 7th century very present at all. It just doesn't seem like so. And Christian are the same thing. It is more like these three groups are just mentioned because this whole storytelling takes place in somewhere in the north.
I mean, another thing. First, Jews existed in Medina or in Yathrib. But the thing,
yeah, sure, but I don't believe that was quite big groups, etc.
No. I mean, Mecca. I don't even think that Mecca. Yeah, it doesn't take place in Mecca. But the funny thing is, the word that is used for Christians is Nasara, which comes from the what is it called in English? Nasariyun or something like that. Nasari.
The Nazareths, yes.
The Nazareths, exactly. And that was a small sect that it's kind of surprising that it even existed in that time, because it should have died out pretty much, if I understand Tom Holland correctly. But it may have existed some few Nazarethi guys on the fringes of out in the desert.
No, because like I told before, this was a group more or less not isolated, but they didn't move any further than this small area Nazareth at all. That's the point. So it is clear that they are talking about the group in the north, or all groups in the north, so to say.
Yeah.
And the same goes with Tom Holland's depicting how this prophet in the Quran described, haven't you seen this and this place? And those places aren't in even close to Mecca or Medina at all. So it just gets pretty clear. And BJ asked, Baal was the son of El, right? I don't know about Baal and didn't research much about Baal, but as far as I know, no, not that he was the son of El at all. Because
Baal,
El,
isn't Baal the main god in the Phoenician culture? I know that on is it called the ram on the ship when Rome battled Carthage on the sea, the Carthaginians wrote, "May Baal use this to destroy the enemy's ship," or something like that, to on the ram, or whatever it's called, this front iron or front bronze part, whatever it is.
Yeah, you're right. He's one of the main gods by the Phoenicians, but I don't know if he was the main god of the Phoenicians, and if he was the son of El. That I don't think at all that he was the son of El, because El is more like a Hebrew point.
But Phoenician was Semitic dudes, and Arabic is Semitic, and
pretty much every culture there was Semitics. So that's
El is just in Arabic Ilah, so Elohim in Hebrew, I think.
Depends on how much back you go, because El was a name of a god. That's I remember, but which one exactly, I have no clue. Fee, are there other good books on pre-Islamic Arabia for research purpose? I can't say in English, Fee, at all. I couldn't refer you to some. I have included in this package of my presentation the book of Julius Wellhausen and Krell, but both are in German. Krell maybe has his book also translated in English. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have no clue why Julius Wellhausen's book never got published in English, because it's very rich on information, etc. Rob, what is the significance of these starting phrases from 85 to 95? That was to show that it is not sworn, it is not an oath by Allah or to Allah, so to say, but an oath to the sky, to swearing to the land, or to the sun, to the morning brightness, etc. It just shows the leftovers from a previous culture. Does the research material of pre-Islamic Arabia conforms with what's present in hadiths about the society, living standards, etc., or are there stark difference? I mean, the hadith itself is in stark difference in the collection. So no, it is not like in the stark difference to this pre-Arabia stuff, etc. Because many informations the scholars and the Orientalists got also in the Hadith, and then they looked at other books which hadn't the really connection to Islam itself, and confirmed that this, so to say, with Hadith, etc. To see if this was a common knowledge, etc. So, okay, I think let's go further.
What did you say about? Are you halfway into the speak now?
Yeah, I'm in exactly in the middle.
I can take that after you're finished. Yeah.
Okay. So where was I in my text worshipping? Just a second. Okay, there is no doubt that Hubal represents the moon god, that his partner or spouse is Lat, or meaning Lat. the female form of God, who represent the sun. Not every culture has the same sun. That I already had. Yeah, exactly, about the Hittites. They were from the southeast of Turkey. They were involved in wars with the Egyptians right from the beginning, and later were the arch enemies of the Israelites, like mentioned in Moses 5:17. The archaeological evidence, archaeological findings have been able to show that this is true, that this culture existed, etc. And that the language, the Hittite language, comes from Indo-Germanic language as a source. This shows how universal the cuneiform form was. Most, like I said, today's Latin letter can be pretty good applied to any language, so to say. As was the case for all cultures around 2000 BCE. The Hittites had a pantheon of gods, and the moon god was of high standing, called Arma. The moon as a god was also known to the Sumerians, but it lacked importance in the Sumerians' pantheons. With the expansion of the Hittite Empire, the elevated position of the moon god expanded with it into Babylon and Mesopotamia and the northwest of the later Assyrian Empire. That is why the Assyrian Babylonian moon god Sin, which is equivalent to Arma, was worshipped increasingly, since it was the moon, of course. The pinnacle of this was probably the attempted impeachment of the god king Marduk. This was what Nabonid tried, a Babylonian king who saw himself as the successor of the Assyrian kingdom, as the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Nabonid lived in the 7th or possibly in the 6th century BCE. The dismissal of the god called Marduk resulted in a great resistance among the priests of Marduk, leading into the exile of Nabonid. He took with him his moon god Sin. So here is just a source where it's a little bit talked. Blue in the Mesopotamian is the German title. That's just a page where it's mentioned the start of the story, and the original title, if you want a book to see an overlook of this whole pantheons and god thing and kingdoms and empires, etc. It's Babylonians called the original titles by the British Museum Press, etc. He spent the majority of his exile in Taima. Through his son, he managed to maintain some sort of military and political control in Babylon to some extent. It also provided a short distance to the new territories to conquer or sign treaties on the Arabian Peninsula. Nabonid is said to have been the first Babylonian to conquer Medina, even before he retired to Taima later on completely. So this is just a little simple map so that people can see where Babylonia and Babylon was. This was his course from there through the desert. Taima is in the middle of the way, and he was going to Medina, meaning Yathrib at that time. He conquered Yathrib, but was going later on back to Taima and lived there the rest of his life. But after his death, they could not maintain the location, unlike his moon cult, which he was able to cultivate and obviously spread outside Babylon. Taima remained important. Nabateans, apparently a trade civilization and constantly moving around, seem to have been involved and apparently were the successors of power in the region. They held on the gods to a certain extent. Timor remained an important trade destination, and they had a language with Semitic roots. Babylonians primarily spoke Akkadian, which was later replaced by Aramaic, and then Nabatean was most probably related. These Aramaic influences are found in later Arabic, like shown in the little clip by Luxembourg. Don't forget that the new ideas collide with old thoughts, and this also goes for languages. The only language which is static is a dead language. With the introduction and simultaneous worship of the moon god by Nabanid in Medina, the dignity of this god must have increased in southern Arabia over the next 1,000 years. Apart from all these lesser deities, we still have the well-known ones like Usa, Manat, and Lat. As mentioned before, Lat is the sun representation and wife of Hubal. But what do we know about the Kaaba where this Hubal was the boss? We are only told that it existed before Muhammad. We are also told that it was used for rituals. Where this idea of a square building originated is unclear. One can speculate and connect it with Yemen, since we have a chapter in the Quran allegedly talking about a king from Yemen, King Abraham, who attacked Mecca in order to destroy the Kaaba, where Allah managed to prevent this. But still, this is a time where this Muhammad didn't live, and so it must have been the Lord of the Kaaba, and it was known the Lord of the Kaaba was Hubal. Like you see here, this is the story in short. Have you considered how your Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant? Did he not make their plan into misguidance, and he sent against them birds in flocks, striking them with stones of hard clay? Either stones or clay, it's not the same, but anyway. And he made them like eaten straw. It is not 100% clear that it's really Abraha, but pretty much most scholars say it is this one. Why would the king have the urge to destroy the Kaaba? Again, speculating, I could suggest that he could not tolerate the new competition, as a Kaaba existed in Yemen. At least today we have a Kaaba, a square stone structure in the middle of the mosque area in Sana'a. This is it. You can even search it today on Google Maps or Google Earth. The coordinates you see here. And it's strange, they also have a Kaaba. I mean, yeah. Why should Yemenites, who also call themselves Muslims, tolerate a Kaaba where it should be abundantly clear that there is only one house of God, and it's in Mecca? Some might opine that these are not real Muslims, since most of them adhere the Shia faith today. It would be interesting to have more information than just a pointer to the animosity between Sunnis and Shias. So what exactly do we learn from the Islamic tradition regarding the Kaaba? Even from the Hadith literature, it becomes obvious that there were rituals at the time, even before Muhammad, which exist today and are executed more or less the same way. One thing I want to point out is that the Kaaba is mentioned more often than Mecca in the Quran. That is not really difficult, since the name Mecca is only mentioned once, and it's not even clear if it refers to the Mecca. The Kaaba is mentioned twice, in chapter 5, in the sentence 95 and 97. We get some informations. And if we analyze them, it becomes obvious that the things mentioned there were already in usage before this Muhammad came along and insisted the rituals were to be adhered to. I have to wait. Now Now I skipped some picture. Oh, just a second. Oh, you who believe, do not kill game with you are the state of Iran. And whoever of you kills intentionally, the penalty is an equivalent for what he killed, as judged by two just men among you as an offering to Allah, delivered to the Kaaba, or an explanation to feeding of needy people, the equivalent of that in fasting, that he may taste the consequences of his deed, etc., etc. I have just to check. I have messed up some pictures here. And here's a little story that this wasn't already known, this Kaaba and the rituals. Narrated Abis bin Rabia. Umar came near the stone and kissed it and said, "No doubt, I know that you are a stone and can neither benefit anyone nor harm anyone. Had I not seen Allah's messenger kissing you, I would not have kissed you." Well, that just shows that they had to somehow made these rituals into Islam, and you can't make it disappear, this ritual, because people would uprise and make disturbance, etc. So they just invented this little hadith which made it all clear. I have no clue why I'm kissing, but let's just kiss it. Primarily, the rituals are combined with the pilgrimage. Here we can use the book, the 1897 book, Reste arabischen Heidentums by Julius Wellhausen. One of his main sources is Jaqut and Ibn Hisham. Jaqut is a geographer from the 12th century who collected different locations with their respective tales and legends and wrote them down. Here you can just see the sources. And here is described kissing of the stone running between hills, and the idea that Allah's abode, the Lord of the Kaaba, was preserved and moved to the old thoughts into the new ideas. Some rituals were abandoned, others, like facing Jerusalem for prayers, adjusted later. Wellhausen relates that it was not the gods in the Kaaba which made the Kaaba a holy place, but the Kaaba itself was holy. This is explained by the black stone, which was the holy relic, and the Kaaba was the extension, as it were, God's dress, so to say. And this god, the black stone, was Manat. One page on page 74, we read, wait a second, we read like something, the holiness of the Kaaba was not an idol, but the stone was it. This would resemble one aspect of the explanation why the black stone, even in 2017, it is still of importance to Muslim, and why it was imperative to supply hadiths underlining the importance of this stone without any explanations. Again, this hadith is meant. This would also partially at least explain why Abraha wanted to attack the Kaaba, because the black stone represents Mana, or to be precise, her vagina, because Manat is the equivalent of Ishtar, Inanna, Venus, or Aphrodite, a goddess of fertility, the most well-known and oldest goddess of fertility. It could also be that Yemen supplied ideas which were exported to Mecca, possibly also the first written down version of the Qur'an. Professor Gerd Buin examined this but was not allowed to publicize his finding. And for this one, we look just the second short clip.
In 1972, during the restoration of the Great Mosque of Sana'a, capital of North Yemen, workers discovered a mash of old parchments in a loft between the inner and outer roofs. The entire load was stuffed into some 20 potato sacks, where it might have remained were it not for the arrival 7 years later of Dr. Geert Puin, a German scholar and Quranic expert. Puin immediately grasped the significance of the find. Working with a team of local assistants, he carefully prized the layers apart and fired off thousands of photographs. 4 fragments immediately caught Puin's attention. They contained the first and last chapters of the Quran, and unlike any other Qurans in existence, they were illustrated with architectural drawings of mosques. A vital clue to their origin.
Man kann eben diesen Koran
Because of its drawings, because of the art historical context, you can date this Quran very precisely to the time of Al-Walid.
sehr genau datieren auf die Zeit von Al-Walid. Das heißt,
This is the reign between 705 and 715.
5 und 715.
The oldest datable Quran in the world, created some 70 years after the death of the Prophet. From the potato sacks, Puin identified fragments from nearly 1,000 different Qurans. Comparisons between them and the standard Cairo text in use today are startling. These early texts are written in a kind of shorthand with no vowel markings or distinguishing dots.
I just wanted to interrupt this little clip. As I pointed out here with a little overlay, Surah 2 verse 2, this is the book in which there is no olive oil. You could read if you have no diacritical points. Or, like it's portrayed today, this is the book in which there is no doubt. Without the points, I mean, both are right. That's the main part here is obvious. And like Saracen once said, Arabic in that time was the pinnacle of Arabic. I mean, it's just a little bit silly because you had no idea what word could mean if you're not directly told by the writer himself what it has to mean. So you just have to look in the context. Does it make sense? Could it make sense? But this is the book in which there is no olive oil is exact on the same level of correct as the second one. This is the book in which there is no doubt. Do you understand, people, what that mean about the diacritical points, or is it too hard to grasp?
Is it really a diacritical point? I mean, in that case, la rayba fi is
Not
just
only,
that.
no.
That is just the point over. So it's la zayta fi. You see what I'm saying? So there is not. It's even worse than the diacritical marks because it's the points over the. You can see it here if you point on the ra. I don't know if you point on the last letter in the picture that you're showing.
Yeah, it's of course it's even worse. I mean, I can't write Arabic, so you see that even more drastical than me. So of course.
Yeah, but like in this, as you can see here, in this Arabic, there's not even any dots above. Like there's just like we today write the R sound on the R letter, but it could be with a dot where it's like Z sound, Z sound.
That's the problem. There are even no points, so the word can mean even more things. So it gets even more confusing. That's
it's even more confusing than the critical marks.
Is the takeaway here, guys, that the dots and some vowels are missing, and therefore what we found here in this documentary, these parchments, are different from the Quran that everybody reads today, and therefore has different meanings?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
That's the whole point, and that are the earlier Quran. So
Well,
because most Muslims say the Quran never changed and it was perfect from the beginning. That's just a simple lie. If you point diacritical point, if you have to point on the scriptures to make it more understandable, it was changed at this moment. So,
but
yeah.
even in that Sana'a manuscript, there are completely different words. We went through that in the Quranic manuscripts video, which was kind of chaotic.
Let me play the last 1 minute of this.
Okay.
which means that individual words can have up to 30 different meanings.
Es ist tatsächlich so, dass man durch die schiere Existenz
The sheer existence of so many different possible readings would suggest that this text wasn't passed down word for word.
der Text eben nicht wortwörtlich überliefert worden.
The text isn't as stable as it seems in the Cairo version.
In der Fassung von Kairo erscheint.
Forensic examination of the Sana fragments revealed earlier texts that had been washed off and overwritten. Although the hidden text revealed no contradictory meanings, words had been changed, verses and whole chapters rearranged.
Exactly. Where was I on my text? When it comes to historicity of Mecca, it gets very thin for Muslims because Mecca does not seem to have existed before the 6th century. Obviously, there are no Arabic records as Arabic as a written language did not really exist yet. And other historians somehow had nothing to report. Who would want to travel into the desert where there is nothing anyway? This, however, does not prevent printing houses of encyclopedias to provide a completely irrelevant explanation. We read that Ptolemy had already mentioned Mecca in the 3rd century BCE. And here you see a little text, and what about this Ptolemy and his mention. The mentioned Makroba is actually Mecca, it says.
Just make it a bit bigger, Ike, if you can.
I can, but do you want all to read it?
Just a little bit. You can carry on reading there. Thanks.
Yeah, there you see it about Ptolemy and the Makraba. The inadequacy of this encyclopedia is further demonstrated in the logic of the author in the last paragraph, where it says, Hubal is never mentioned there. What position Allah held besides these in pagan times is not exactly known, which is pretty much doesn't apply to the rest of this whole knowing about Hubal and description about him, that he was the Lord of the Kaaba. And this it just says in the last sentence here. In other words, they simply ignore that Hubal was this Allah, the boss of the Kaaba, mentioned in the Quran, who even today is the boss in the Kaaba, is Hubal, which was already explained. Julius Wellhausen describes this concisely. I have to shrink in this and go to the next one here. The most noble family of Bagila was Amas Allah, where Allah was the replacement for all idol names. It just showed a bit the importance of Allah and Hubal as the biggest one. And now for something more cheerful. Pious Muslims running between As-Safa and Al-Marwa, stoning the devil in Mina, shaving your head and circling the Kaaba, declaring this giant party, calling it Hajj. First, something obvious. The Saudis made the devil really big. You see on the one side, on the left side, the Hajj for
I've been there.
Yeah, but on the right side, you've been only on the right side version.
Yeah, I've been on the right side, so I know.
That's the point.
It's like two. The funny thing I think is that it's a German that has designed. It's like a huge bridge. There's like several levels also. There's like.
Yeah, let me
Okay, sorry.
So first, obvious, the Saudis made the devil really big. You see this. This is on the left side, the Hajj like 60 years ago, and the Hajj today. If we speculate and consider the pillars in Jamarat to actually represent the devil, wouldn't it have been more meaningful to leave them as they were instead of increasing their size? It would be a sign that the constant stoning had already reduced the size and was showing some effect on defeating the devil, both physically and symbolically. Instead, Satan gets a monumental habitat, and you can comfortably stone him from 3 levels inside a sun-protected building. Stop Spamming said also it was air-conditioned, but about that I'm not sure if there are air conditioner there, so could be, but
it's not completely surrounded.
That's the point. I don't think that it would make sense to put the air conditioning there. It would just consume pretty much many power, but could be. Anyway, what we don't know is the origin of this ritual with stoning of some pillars. Like I said, Satan gets a giant, comfortable building, and the Muslim built Satan's a big house. I don't know why. I thought Satan has to be to disappear, but instead he gets a house. We have already seen something about the black stone and that it is definitely a pagan ritual. But why is this stone or even the Kaaba touched and even kissed so much? Julius Wellhausen has an explanation for this too. You worship gods by kissing them. In Arabia, as far as I know, this honor is only instilled in the black stone today. What was more common was stroking the idols, to touch and caress them. This was the common way of greeting the house god and the entrance. The most important part of the Arabic cult was the circumambulation of holy relic. This word. Okay, now I'm going to now it's going to be get a bit saucy. The circling of the Kaaba. I already mentioned that the Kaaba was the extension of the actual relic, the black stone, and this is linked to fertility and Venus. In other words, Manat here. That's the reason for the kissing and caressing of the stone. And even today, Muslims should not wear any undergarments, no underpants, and no bras. Just this bed sheet. That is called bed sheet. They are only allowed allowed a belt where one can attach the wallet. So money is always important for holiness, for some reason. But the ritual of circumambulation was their worship and was performed in the nude. Next picture I have to take. So, the practice of circling the holy stone, dahwar, the object of the practice, pagans often did this naked. Not only at the Kaaba, but also in other places, if it was about fertility. The number of rounds of 7 is a direct connection with the 7 heavens, which was known all over the world because it's connected to the sky and night sky and people observing it and seeing moving things. And Julius Wellhausen noted that even in the Qur'an, the nudity and thus the present pre-Islamic rituals are significant. That's why it says in chapter 7, verses 26 to 29. Let me put it up here. This is really small. Wait a second, because I have to read it also. O children of Adam, we have bestowed upon you clothing to conceal your private parts, as adornment, but for the clothing of righteousness. That is best. That is from the signs of Allah, perhaps they will remember. O children of Adam, let not Satan tempt you as he removed your parents from paradise, stripping them from their clothing to show them for their private parts. Indeed, he sees you, he and his tribe, from where you do not see them. Indeed, we have made the devil's allies to those who do not believe, etc. It just shows that the people had something with nudity to do. Say, O Muhammad, my Lord has ordered justice, and that you maintain yourself at every place of prostration, and invoke him sincere to him in religion, just as he originated you will return to. Okay, so that's just the verses. You can read them for yourself. This is further explored in the Hadith. Wait. Here I have some sources of Hadiths. Let me see if we can read just one at least. Yeah, let's take this one. Narrated Abu Huraira that during the Hajj, in which the Prophet had made Abu Bakr as Siddiq as chief of the Hajj before the Hajj ul-Wida, on the day of Nar, Abu Bakr sent him along with a group of persons to announce to the people, no pagan is permitted to perform Hajj after this year, and nobody is permitted to perform the Tawaf of the Kaaba naked. And all this shown hadith here, there are probably even way more, talk about more or less the same situation. So the pagans knew that they were doing for what they were doing, for what or whom, and Islam simply borrowed this. Apparently, there are more juicy hadiths which were never really translated into English or German for the matter. Like Sahih Bukhari 7819 and Sahih Muslim 2141. This is supposed to represent an intense fertility connection with the Kaaba, so that males made their way to Arafah with sperm dripping from their dicks. Before we move on to Arafah, let's quickly talk about circumcision. Next picture here. Originally, the circumcision was linked to the barbaric custom of a test before a boy was allowed to get married. Blah blah. There was a link between circumcision and groom. The girl was also cut as a feast. Circumcision was thus a common practice, even thought it was not really linked to the religious practice either. Nevertheless, it is a fixed item in Islam today that would explain why it is not mentioned in the Quran at all, because it just hadn't any real connection to religion. The mosque in Taif was also adorned with its Kaaba, and, like the Kaaba in Mecca, was covered by a cloth. But this building was dedicated to the goddess Lat, the wife and daughter of Hubal, the lady of the house. Wellhausen, page 30. You can read this up, if you can German, of course. Fasting too was a part of Arabic pledges. You pledged that you would abstain from woman and wine before the god helped you. This was usually connected to a vendetta, a blood revenge. When the blood revenge was received, you could shave your head and only had to sacrifice something to your god, or at least organize a feast for the needy of your clan or tribe. Wellhausen, page 122 and 123. The evil eye, Jinn, mascots, angels, curses, all existed before the advent of Mohammedans and were simply woven into Islam. Today, this is seen as purely Islamic, which is nonsense. Angels did not fly, but rode like demons did, because Satan was also an angel. And according to Wellhausen, page 152, they rode on foxes and ostriches. Strange that they had ostriches to ride. Even the covering is nothing new. Even beautiful men had to cover themselves to avoid the evil eye. So that's you see the connection there. But I think if one is Muslim and he is ugly, he has to take this serious today even. Mostly you cover your head when, and get this, when having a shit. Wellhausen, page 196. The connection to the Mandeans and their influence on the letters of written Arabic comes with a full circle when you consider that Muslims were initially called Kabians, the way Mandeans referred to themselves, as did other renegade Christian sects. Back to the Hajj rituals. People used to wait at the Dhul Hijjah near the hill of Arafat for the 8th day. Before Islam, you left before sunset to arrive still awake in Muzdalifah on the 10th day, where you collected pebbles. This was simply reversed. The pagans departed after sunset, Muslims before sunset. You wander to Medina, passing the 3 stone heaps of Jamarat, and throw 7 pebbles at the 3rd stone heap. In Mina, you have the huge slaughter of sacrifice animals. Make a robe out of you, meaning shave your head, touch a woman if you want, because you have left the state of Ihram, of sacred, and return it to the profane. On day 11 to day 13, you only need to throw some pebbles at all 3 stone heaps. You need to show the devils who's boss. Even he gets every 10 years maybe now, bigger and bigger. The interesting part is that there seems to have been an eternal flame in Muzdalifah, which was the first stop. This was in honor of a weather god, a god of thunder, able to shoot arrows of hail from his bow. He can hang in the clouds. The name of this god seemed to have been Huzwa or Khawzwa, something like that. The mentioning of lightning and thunder in the Quran, making blind and killing sinners, is probably a leftover from this. Wellhausen, page 82. All details regarding how often or even how to pray are not described anywhere, so finding the origins is not really easy. Even many suggest it comes from Zoroastrianism. Of course, it had to some roots there. I suggest you may look into the Persian book, the Book of the Righteous Viraf. There you should also find the famous night journey, but instead of Muhammad, it is Viraf who visits the heavens and hell. Because Islam did not happen overnight, but took 150 to 300 years about, until the halfway canonized Quran happened and the explanatory hadiths appeared, so that the Quran and hadith could inseminate and confirm on one another. Generalizing, we can say that most of the Quran and with it written Arabic took place in the northern part of Arabia. The rituals which are not specified in the Quran came from the southern regions of Arabia. The rest is, as they say, history. If you want to establish all the integrated components in literary form, I recommend Ignaz Goldziher's and his 700-page book Mohammedan Studies. I want to close the circle by pointing to the symbol of Islam, originated from the Ottomans, immigrated Turks in a Byzantine-controlled region. For some reason, the Ottomans heard of different gods and religions and only used Islam for their cause much later. When they had established their Islamic empire, they had to take control of Mecca, where they discovered their symbols of their old religions. They connected old and new, and the symbol was born, the moon crescent. If we examine Islam in a rational manner, like any other religion, putting together all the parts of the puzzle, we realize that it is no different than any other religion which is started. Old thoughts mixing with new ideas. That was it.
Yeah. Applause,
Awesome.
clap, standing.
Good job. Great job. Very in-depth. Probably take more than one viewing of this to get all of that in.
Can I ask my questions?
I mean, this was almost 2 hours. Come on.
Can I start ask my questions?
Go for it.
Are they important?
Of course they're important. One question is, do you find anything of like that there was any Vedic influences in the early pre-Islam, like Hindu influences?
Well, can you count Persian stuff as Vedic? I don't know.
No, not Zoroastrian but like because if you think about, especially when you think about Hajj, it's suspiciously similar. Like the rituals themselves are suspiciously similar to Hindu rituals.
And yes, the texts are too. I found a lot of references. Like, for example, the floating mountains, there's the whole mountain story you can find in the Vedas as well. There's a lot of references to the Vedas, yeah.
But I mean the rituals themselves, because the reason why I asked that question now was because I was looking at Salah, where the Salah style could come from, the prayer style, how they pray. But then Ike was showing this about Hajj, and then I thought, actually that is one thing that I find suspiciously similar, like the clothes you're wearing and how you wear the clothes and how it's similar to both Buddhist and Hindu practices, the shaving of the head and all that. So I thought, if there's
really Hindus do that?
I mean, they don't do exactly the same thing, but I think in like Shiva worship, they make some kind of tawaf.
Well, I don't think
running around.
Yeah, they go around, and also some Buddhists do that, go around.
About the shaving, I only can say why probably this shaving is common, known, etc. Because the hair, Wellhausen also talks about what happens to the hair who was shaved. It was cleaned and then it was baked into the bread, and the reason for that is that it makes the bread soft and much easier to eat. And you see that. I've seen this in a little documentary in China. They collect hair and extract this. I don't know how it's called, but they extract this substance and put it into the industrial made bread. So there's probably the reason why they shave. This shaving of the head is pretty common to after they so long they didn't eat for the whole day, etc. They could make better bread for the next 2 weeks or so. Just pretty obvious that there is a connection about this.
But is there a connection between that and Hindu and Vedic practices? Was
and
that
Wellhausen, at least Wellhausen and Goldshear don't talk really about Hindu and Vedic connection. No.
Okay, yeah. This is like not really a question, maybe, but or no. First, before I do that, the question is, when you were talking about Salah, and you said that it doesn't say in Qur'an or the Hadith exactly how you pray and so on. What was that? What you say? I mean, and in the Quran it doesn't go into specifics, but the Hadiths I think are quite specific.
Not really. You get bits and pieces. Some say you have to do this one with because Muhammad did that, and other hadith in a complete different chapter talks about what Muhammad did to something other, and so it's just a mix of different things. But it's not like a canon, like a clear instruction. You have to read as most hadiths as possible to just make for yourself some instructions.
Okay. I'm going to show like this like how similarities with the old Jewish practices. I don't know if you can see it. So what it said is like Salah Yahud. Okay, no. Salah Yahud Ibrahim al-Ibrahimiyya. So this is like Jewish guys doing similar things to Ruku and Sujud. As you can see, they go up there.
Yeah, but Islam was common Judaism 2.0.
Yeah. Let's see.
But the question here is this shown by what you just showed? Is this a new practice by the Jews, or is it really old, or are they influenced with their movement by the Muslims later, etc.?
Well, as I understand it, it's like the Jews and Christians were already praying something like this before Islam came. So I'm going to show it didn't just came out of the blue, I think.
Yeah, like I told, what was of course known is just bowing down and putting your face in the dirt, but the rest, move your head this way and move it and that the other way, and how to arrange your feet and the pointing the finger up.
Details. Exactly, the details weren't there.
Of course, it was known that you have to bow before your Lord. I mean that's pretty much clear, but you can see that's mostly all religions on the planet, that the God is higher and you have to bow before your higher source. That's nothing new, I think.
Yeah, so here's even a Tibetan Buddhist. Kind of familiar. So,
yeah, here again, is this one influenced by a Muslim, or did this one influence the Muslim?
But these kind of practices was already. You have to remember that Buddhism is way older, and I think there's even I think it's even in Hinduism that this like what is it, five parts have to touch the ground. That is already in place in Hinduism, like your forehead, your hands, your feet, and your knees has to touch the ground. If I remember this correctly.
What is asking, was Syriac the lingua franca before and during the life of Prophet Muhammad? In which region you have to specify?
Yeah, in which region? But as I understand it, it was the lingua franca in the Middle East.
Yeah, in the north, of course, more or less, but not only, because Greek still was very prominent, and of course it started with Arabic in the 6th century too in the north. And this is the whole story about the Umayyads empire getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Another thing, this about Mecca. If you remember what Tom Holland says, so the first mention of Mecca is about 100 years after the death, or the alleged death, of the Prophet. And it says that it's not in where Mecca is today, but in Iraq. It's kind of weird.
And that I also mentioned. He shows a passage from the Quran, and it says, "Oh, you people, etc., etc. Didn't you see that this region or this town or something like that, etc.? And this town was in the north, in Jerusalem, near Jerusalem. So Muhammad couldn't ask the Meccans about this whole thing because this wasn't just not in their region. It didn't make any sense for Mecca to be told to the Meccanians."
There's a question in the chat there. Why do you think Abdul al-Malik added diacritical marks?
We don't know who did.
I didn't claim Abdul al-Malik added.
Rob, can you give the link to Jews for Jesus so we can join?
At least I don't think that Abdul al-Malik added the diacritical points.
Neither do I. I think this was 200 years later.
Yeah. So Abd al-Malik lived like like in the later 7th century and the beginning 8th century, and the diacritical points were more or less added in the late 9th century and the 10th century beginnings, more or less.
And another reference now for the Syriac, for the Aramaic Syrian connection. This is why Luxembourg actually came up with this idea, because if you take the words from the Quran, where a lot of them are borrowed from other languages, they simply do not make sense. I don't know, did you bring the example? I can't remember now. When Mary is sitting there, we've made a river underneath you, and everything is taken care of, and look at your ass. Which
yeah,
means,
you didn't listen to the
donkey.
clip. Stop spamming, you didn't listen to the clip. And it
Is that
was
the one you
mentioned.
took?
It was exactly that mentioned in the
Oh
clip.
shit, I'm sorry.
You
I forgot
failed
about
hardly.
that, but there's exactly the clip which explains it so nicely.
You even had the clip in the zip file for as reference. For,
Okay, guilty.
this is the whole thing, the whole presentation again. This shown up little shortcut, and there you find also these two clips. Just listen to them 1, 2, 3 times. They are short, both about 4 minutes each, and it is described exactly this point.
Should I give the link to Jews for Jesus?
Well, I'm asking him to send me a message in Facebook, but I can't see him there because obviously he's not using that name. So he just needs to send me a link in Facebook, and I'll send him the link. 6:32, the marks were added. Jinn&Tonic show. That's what's being asked. 6:32, the marks were added.
Of course, that's just the supposedly death year of Muhammad, and that would mean you are going for the story that after the death of Muhammad, the Quran was exactly like it is today, which just simply isn't the case.
I mean, you can see immediately it's bullshit. If you go to much later Qurans, you can see they don't have the markings yet.
Like also showed in the second clip.
Ah, bloody hell. I'm not paying attention, am I?
There's a lot there, isn't there? And that particular documentary, I think some Muslims, like at the park, have tried to refute, because Jay Smith has brought that up as well, and they've tried to refute that as well.
Somebody
Well, I mean, they have
mentioned,
to.
Yeah, that is Hexel Wexel. Most scholars reject Luxemburg's theory as far as I know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
No.
just of course, many reject this because it would mean their understanding of Islam and the Quran would shatter their world belief and make it feel apart, etc. Of course, they reject. But I mean, this was just a short clip. In the whole documentary, two-part documentary, like I think 1 hour and 40 minutes in total. It shows more, and if you read the book, it gives even more example, and it gives linguistic, scientific explanation, and makes it very clear why it makes sense if you do it like he does in his expertise of language science, so to say.
Yeah, but you need to also understand that not everybody rejects it. It's just that not everybody embraces it. The consensus is, yes, it is a possibility, but it has not been demonstrated to everybody's full liking, and it's not a fact. So it's a possibility, but not a fact, and therefore people see it with a bit of caution. They say, yes, it could be a possibility, and yes, it is a possible interpretation, but at the moment we can still say we don't know for sure.
Shalom, Jews for Jesus.
Hi guys. So, what did you want to discuss with me? I'm actually listening to the show next to doing something else because I just joined a couple of minutes ago. But I've heard that you were already discussing similarities between Islam and other things, so I had to add the points that I put in the chat.
Yeah. Can you repeat your on Salah, the similarities with Muslim prayer?
So the point was that usually Jews do prayers 3 times a day. That reminds, that is according to the times that some sort of sacrifices were brought into the Jewish temple, except for on Yom Kippur, the so-called it's the highest holiday of the Jews during the year, where 5 prayers a day are done. And also during those 5 prayers, you have occasions where Jews bow down on their knees and also take off their shoes.
When they pray 3 times a day, so on what time a day do they pray?
Well, the prayers, the 3-time prayers is morning, noon, and evening.
Yeah, because what's the ayah in the Quran? Because in the Quran it's also it only mentions 3 times. What does it says in the Quran?
Yeah, it does, but in different places on different occasions.
It's just combined. If you combine these 3 occasions, you get to 3 times praying.
Yeah, because it says in the evening after the sunset, and then in the morning, and then in between, but it doesn't specify.
Yeah. But that fits the Jewish 3 times a day prayer. So the Quran probably comes from the Jewish practice.
And then there is the Jewish practice, which is 5 times a day. Well, but that's sort of an...
Yeah, isn't that only Sabbath?
No, it's on the Yom Kippur.
Ah, okay.
So on the day of, that's the Day of Atonement, where you have the 3 regular prayers, morning, midday, and afternoon, and evening prayer. But you also have the prayer of all the oaths, and I think the festival prayer. So there are 2 prayers added, and they are not. There is an order. There is an order which prayer comes before which, and then if you add all the prayer times up, you add up with 5 times.
Okay, but you don't get points for this like the Muslims do.
Actually, you do. There is this system of thawab in Islam, which is like your merit or whatever. And there is a similar system in Judaism as well, with a different name.
This is Majus, Salatul Majusi. Majus is like Zoroastrian kind of, the Magi's.
I can't play this with audio, so Pull-Ups has asked if I can just play it on the screen there.
But
I also
forgot.
I forgot to mention something else. We would probably or could go deeper into this whole issue and do it with archaeological evidences, etc. But the problem is in Saudi Arabia, archaeological stuff is pretty much not possible. I mean, archaeologists just will not get permitted to dig up stuff there, because I mean, let's be clear, if you find something and it shows that everything is bullshit, they can't let that happen. So that's why the reason even if you search in the net days and days and days, you just get the same 5-6 pictures over and over, and the same text over and over, because people just are not allowed to dig up stuff there.
No, exactly. Can I ask you, just for Jesus, when you pray this 5 times on Yom Kippur, what times a day do you pray the 2 extra?
Well, I think one of them is between the evening and no, actually the 2 of them are between the midday and the evening prayer, if I'm not mistaken.
But is it similar to
almost the entire day is filled out with prayers? Actually, there is a break for about an hour or 2 there. Or 2, that's it.
Because it's not similar to like Salat. Do you know Salat al-Asr and Salat al-Maghrib in Islam?
No, I'm not familiar with those.
Salat al-Asr is like when like not exactly midday, but like when the sun starts to get kind of redder, but it's not really, like it's between the sunset and midday.
I have to. Okay, so this is the time definition.
Yeah, and Maghrib is like when the sun has dropped down on the horizon, or below
actually,
the horizon.
The evening prayer in Judaism is called similarly Ma'arif.
What's it called in Hebrew?
Prayer. Sorry?
What's it called in Hebrew?
Ma'arif.
Okay.
It comes from also, it's the same root as the west, because the sun sets in the west.
Yeah, exactly. And the same in Arabic.
This is a brilliant video. But is the prayer also a contact prayer?
Yes, it is.
So it's not the Christian way.
Sorry?
So it's not the Christian prayer, which is a pleading prayer.
No, it's a contact prayer. There is, however, the possibility at a certain point of the contact prayer to insert your personal wish.
And not just the written one in the Wailing Wall.
Well, that's the Wailing Wall. That's a different story. So let's separate the two. So in the Jewish prayer, you have a certain, or really a small paragraph where you can add up where you can add your personal wish. So that's one thing. And the Wailing Wall, that's a different thing. There is some textual reference that says that the divine presence has never left the place of the temple.
Okay, but that's also a written request.
And that means that, well, the interpretation of that is that in the temple, your prayers are always listened to. So there is no chance, or it's sort of, there is no chance it will be ignored. Therefore, if you utter your prayer close to the temple, it will be listened to. So people made it, what can be a prayer? It could also be a note. But this is...
Okay, but then this I see as a parallel
really,
to the Kaaba.
It's not really according to, let's say, the divine law or the order of the things. It's just the belief that the divine presence has never left this particular place.
The wall. So in other words, if you touch the wall, you are closer to God.
Well, the wall is believed to be the closest you can be to the temple.
Like the Kaaba.
I'm not sure if that's a good comparison. So actually, the actual closest thing, actually, some people believe that the dome was the dome of the rock is standing right up on the Jewish temple.
Yes.
Yeah, they used to.
So,
the Romans.
Traditionally, the closest thing that Jews were allowed into the vicinity of the temple was the wall.
Okay.
And not beyond. And so the tradition accumulated that this is as close as you can get, because nowadays you can actually go to the archaeological museum of the Temple Mount, right underneath the temple.
Well, the birthplace of Abraham.
Well, it's called the catacombs. If you go today to Jerusalem, I think today it's not possible because the Temple Mount has been blocked for visitors for terror.
Yeah, today the guy was shot today.
Here we go.
Yeah,
There's a picture somebody sent.
I've been there something like 5 years ago, and I've actually met Jews who bought the museum ticket just to be even closer to the Temple Mount, to the center of the temple, what they believe, just to be even closer than they would usually be standing next to the Temple Mount.
Wow. Why can't they wait till they're dead?
Who?
The Jews.
Why? What would it be?
Well, because then they will be very close to God, isn't it?
The Jewish afterlife is a different thing. There is not.
Only special people get an entrance directly to
VIP.
or a connection to God.
No, but hang on. In the Jewish belief, you have a closeness to God.
Is not much elucidated in Judaism. So being close to God is not really a thing that you become after you die.
Isn't it the thing, the belief that the worse you are, the further away you are from God?
I've never heard it put in such words.
Because this is what I understood Judaism to be. The afterlife in Judaism is the distance or the closeness or whatever to this God. The better Jew you are, the closer you are to God.
The problem is that in Judaism, the concept of afterlife developed very much with surroundings. So if you go to the earliest text, you have hardly any reference to afterlife beyond sleeping with the ancestors or something. So there's not much said about it. And then in some point of history, you start to believe in resurrection. The resurrection of the dead.
Thank you.
And now in the prayer it is included that God is supposed to restore the life of the dead.
Yeah, but now you've triggered another thing, because there's hadiths which say that Muhammad used to sleep with the dead.
You mean the
Well-
famous one, the last sleeping with a woman, or what?
Yeah. That way he climbs in the grave.
Yeah, but I think that was shown to be pretty much a big fake.
Yeah, but they all are, aren't they?
I mean, a modern fake, like in the 20th century or something like that. And I have a racist, not racist, but an ugly question, Jews for Jesus. Do the Jews take their shekels with them in death?
Actually, yes, and there is a formal way to do that. So there is a special account that you can put your shekels on, and you can then take them with you.
Come on, this is not a joke.
No joke, actually. The account is called tzedakah, called charity. So
Sorry, say again the word.
That whatever you pay into charity, this is what you actually can take with you.
But this is similar to the zakat.
No, I think it's similar to zakah and not zakat. The Islamic, there is the compulsory tax, which is zakat.
Yeah, zakat.
And then there is zakah, which is like charity.
Yeah, sadaqah.
It's amazing. Okay, we call it savings account, where you put the special money.
Caliph. Am I right? I think that tzedakah corresponds more to the zakah.
Zakah is the thing that you have to do every year, from the 5 pillars, and sadaqah is like voluntary gifts.
Yeah, it's the sadaqah. It's the sadaqah. So that tzedakah corresponds to the sadaqah.
Yeah, exactly. There's also in Islam that there are 3 things that gives you points, so to speak, after you die, and one of that is like a sadaqah. That is so that if you spend money building a mosque, so every time people go and pray in that mosque, you gain points, even if you're dead.
That's an investment.
Yeah, it's an investment. Yeah. But I hear often from Jewish rabbis, they differ very much about the afterlife. It's way more vague. But
That's the point. The idea of afterlife is not really described in the earliest scripture that we have. So there is hardly any mention, I think not a mention at all about afterlife in the Torah. Then some vague idea about sleeping at the site of the ancestors appears in the later books of the Bible, but not the Torah. And the resurrection of the dead is an idea that that circulated around the Hellenic times, so roughly 2,000 years ago. And now, what people learn now is that there is a concept of the world to come.
Yeah, the world to come, wasn't that linked with that was like the original kind of that the Messiah would come.
Yeah, exactly.
And
there is a separation. 2 things: the coming of the Messiah will induce 1,000 years of messianic messianic rule on earth, and when that is over, then there will be the world to come, which means where there is no physical existence of people. There are just souls.
how old is the world to come idea?
How?
Yes. How old is it?
Well, I don't know, because when I learned the things about that, I was not very much interested in its history. I was more learning them as rituals and I was studying it from a different perspective. So I don't know how old the idea is, but I think it's the most recent idea about afterlife.
So what is the idea behind Ezra? Because in the Quran it says it's the son of the God and the Jews, but it's not. I heard that Ezra is just considered to be a nice guy, and that this is his story in Judaism. Do you have any idea, any knowledge about this?
I think we discussed it before, but to sum it up, so Ezra is one of the last prophets mentioned in the Jewish Bible. And so there is Ezra, Nehemiah, and Malachi, the three last ones. So, and Ezra is being all the three prophets commanded the Jews to leave the exile in Babylon, or like in Mesopotamia, and move back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. And I think Ezra was the one who returned the Jews to the temple.
So there is a parallel to Muhammad.
No, it's more parallel because it's a messianic expectation. So there are some criteria that the Messiah should do. Well, one of them is to rebuild the temple, which Ezra did. Another one was to bring the Jews from the exile all over the world to Israel, or to actually to the Temple Mount or whatever, and something else, and to lead a war that ends all wars, and to stop all the evil that there is. And this and Ezra rebuilt the temple and made some Jews coming from Mesopotamia to Israel. So he fulfilled some of the prophecies. So he might have been considered by some people as a Messiah. But because he didn't fulfill all the criteria, he was not a real Messiah. So that was a false belief. Since the Christians adopted the saying that the Messiah is the Son of God, I think that there is it's not a long stretch to say that, oh yeah, if he fulfilled some criteria to be a Messiah, so some people believe that he is the Messiah, some people, the authors of the Quran might have thought, oh, since he is believed to be a Messiah, he's also believed to be Son of God.
Okay, so that's how they got it wrong. Okay.
In Judaism, the reference to children of God is usually referred to people as such.
Okay, thank you. Brilliant.
Geez, are you sorry, I'm not clear. Are you a theist or a non-believer? Or?
I'm an atheist.
Okay, cool.
But I come from a Jewish background.
Yes, yeah, no, just when you were talking about Ezra, God's sending him to right the wrongs, which of course God allowed to happen, which, yeah, we'll put that aside, won't we? We'll I guess we'll all believe that it happened through free will of some kind or other.
Okay, but what was interesting for me is the reference to what happened before Islam. Now, the thing is that we had all the rituals, we had all the stuff from different cultures, from different places, and most of all from the Jews, I think. I think this is a summary that you can say that most of the stuff was available already. It's just that the Arabs put their Arabic touch to it and then sold it as Islam. It's just repackaging.
I think it's not purely that way. It's way too simple view to say that most of that was taken from Judaism. Some of that, I think that we can agree upon, but it's more likely that the Semitic customs, the folklore that the people followed, was also was also common in the region where Islam came into existence.
That's what I
And
mean
that-
with the Arabic flavor.
I like thinking of that more as branches of one tree. So that it's like the evolution of species. It's not that Islam came from Judaism or vice versa, but they have a common ancestor, or even multiple common ancestors.
Okay, I think it's closer than that.
But I think it's more like I might be wrong, but I think in the early stages of Islam, well, when you look at as Tom Holland talks about this, when you look at like kind of Christian and Jewish sources in Jerusalem when the first Arab conquest began, and they looked at what their new overlords did and what the religion was, they were kind of really ambiguous. What is this religion they are doing? It was not clear that what this was Islam, and the Christians thought it was some kind of Judaism because they went up on the same spot as the Jews and they prayed like the Jews, so they thought that they were some kind of Judaism. And even if I would make a guess, I would make the guess that the earliest Islam, if it's even was, I'm not sure it was called Islam back then. I don't think it was called Islam, but I think the earliest, when the first Arab conquests took place, I think they were mostly Jewish, maybe a little bit Christian influenced. But later, when they conquered Zoroastrian lands and Persia and so on, they kind of took in more and more such influences. And
I mean about this whole calling Muslims, etc. You even see in the 20th or in the 19th century books by Orientalists in Europe, many call them not Muslims but Mohammedans, meaning for some reason this was more prominent, and they why would they call them more Mohammedans than Muslims? Because to call them Muslim would have no effect on a theologian or a researcher or any kind of scientist. I mean, if it was clear that they are Muslims, you could call them Muslim. But I think this is even a very recent notion to make it like they were called always Muslim. I think 200 years ago it wasn't that clear at all, and this is not that much ago. 200 years
from now,
yes.
200 years from now, that they call themselves Muslims.
No, that they didn't have a real notion to call them Muslims. I mean, if you read old books, if you read just old books, I mean, not Arabic at all, but by the Orientalists in Europe, many call them Mohammedans. Why is that? I mean,
yeah, but that was the Orientalists. But the thing is, what did the earliest so-called Muslims call themselves?
Well, that's my point. I don't think they even call it themselves. I said in my, what was the word? Let me bring it up. Wait a second. No. Oh, wait a second. What was the word? Just a second.
I think Klingshore called them something like the mu'min,
mu'minin,
term belief.
The believers.
Yeah, but Christians were also called like that. The Christians were also called the believers, so that's nothing real. Kabians, that was the word.
What?
The Kabians were they called at the very beginning, and even before Islam, Muhammad came about, the Mandians called themselves Kabians. So other called the Muslims as they emerged Kabians, and before that, strangely, the Mandians called themselves Kabians. So that there's a point to start to if you want to research.
Kabians from Kaaba, you mean, or from what?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That was for some reason was that the first, and it came from Kaaba because, like I said, before Islam, before anything else, the Mandeans, like in the 6th century or even in the 5th century, maybe called themselves Kabians. So there's the connection to look up what has these Kabians, where's the roots and why supposedly the Muslims were called Kabians.
Probably because they had some kind of sanctuary. But back to this Mu'minun stuff. Like, if I have a kind of conspiracy theory that the word Islam and Muslim wasn't in the original Quran. That the original Quran only mentioned Mu'min. So you have like Surah Al-Mu'minun, for example. That is like the surah of the believers. So my conspiracy theory is that in the original version of the Quran, only Mu'min was used, and only later the word Muslim was used, because they hadn't figured out that they were Muslims yet. That's my theory.
Abu, do you have an old Quran, meaning prior to the Cairo 1924? Do you have one?
Not in here, but I'm not. Now I'm not talking about that. Now I'm talking like before Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. But what's your point?
Well, probably you would find more resembling old titles, old meanings, etc. Prior to the Cairo canonizing universal stuff of the Quran. Because before that, but you even have different verses, numbering, etc. And it is
if you can find it for me, on the web, if they have like pages that is pre-Cairo version.
No, this is the whole point. Because you get different versions of the Quran today, and you get different versions of the Quran history. But I personally, for example, don't know anyone who has a Quran pre-1924.
No, I don't know. But there are, I mean, there are Qur'ans that are older than that.
There is in Tashkent, I think they have one of these.
No, that's not complete.
Oh.
But I think there are Qur'ans that are complete, that are older. So, but if anyone can send me whole pictures of that, that would be good.
I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. In Istanbul, there is a pretty old copy in the museum, like next to the store. Yeah.
Not complete.
Also not complete. What does it mean, actually, not to be complete? So
Tashkent, for example, stops at 42, and in 37-101, for example, it says the exact 37-103, it says the exact opposite of what you find in the 1924 version of the Quran. Because there it says that they were Muslims, and today's version, they were not Muslims. So it's the exact opposite. In this one, I remember this from the top of my head because I did a video about this a couple of months ago.
Right. And what is the apologist's response to that? Because usually what I hear...
What do you think?
Well, I don't know, but I hear that claim that, yeah, the Quran was memorized, nobody could interfere with that, it couldn't have been corrupted. And I'm wondering, I was always wondering, so if you have the Sana manuscripts, where the underlying this UV light reveal text is actually a different version from the...
No, hang on. No, you need to differentiate. No. The Palim says just have a different order, the different wording, different things, but the meaning is not that different. This is like the Hafs and the Wash. So there you need to differentiate between different contents and different appearance, because you can say something is flat and something is without any bumps. It's the same thing. So the wording is different, but the content is the same. And this is what you need to appreciate.
And that's what they say about the different versions of the Quran.
Correct. Unless you go, for example, this thing that I gave you, this is a real discrepancy. This is saying the opposite in the contents. It's not just an appearance thing, it's the contents thing which is the opposite. So this is a real difference. This is different. It's a variant of the Quran.
Right, but then that would dismantle the idea that that is the direct word of God, because
correct.
I think that I'm not sure how it is in Islam, but I think in Arabic you can also associate numeric values to the words in the text.
Yes.
So if a different wording system, if a different wording of the same thing exists, but that would alter these numerical values. And
correct.
I'm not sure how much.
This is the 19 miracle. This is what happened in Tucson, in Arizona, where exactly this method was being used. This is why in chapter 9 they had to delete the last 2 sentences, because then it didn't add up to number 19 anymore. So this is exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Is any of the panel?
Rashid Khalifa. Do you know the name Rashid Khalifa?
Oh yes, this is the translation of the egg-shaped world.
No. That's Zakir Naik. That's somebody else. Rashid Khalifa.
Zakir Naik used the translation of Rashid Khalifa to illustrate that the world was egg-shaped.
Yeah, but this was bouquet. This is not Khalid. No, Rashid Khalifa did not do this. What he did is he translated the Quran and put himself in there as a prophet, and he translated it in a way that, of course, his 19 miracle came up like beautiful. And then Edip Yüksel, the guy who's doing this today from Turkey, he's trying to propagate that, like, for example, day is in the Quran 365 times, as is night, and all these funny things. So he's the one who comes up with all these numeric miracles. But this all is based on this Khalifa thing in the 70s from Arizona.
Abu, are you still there? I hope
yes.
So. If you read this stuff I'm showing up, what you are seeing?
I see Maliki Yawmiddin, Maliki Yawmiddin, Maliki Yawmiddin. There are 3.
The king of day, and
so the top is different from the 2 on the bottom.
What is different?
Malik means like the owner, and Malik means king.
It's just a lengthened A. That's what in the pronouncing. Yes. Well, I have to clarify what we are seeing here now. The first one is an Egyptian Quran with a long A, like you said, exactly. The second one is from Tunisia, 1969, from Tunisia, with a short A. And the last one, let me adjust. It's from 82.
Yeah, but this is from the normal qira'ats from today.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't sound like normal, like not altered if it's different pronouncing and a long A and a short
no,
A.
yeah, it's even different meaning. So Malik doesn't mean the same as Melik. So, but this is from the qira'ats that exist today.
Besides the second one, what's the most different in the last one, the third one?
What do you mean? The last different?
We are seeing three versions here, right?
Yeah, but there's no. I don't think there's any difference between the last 2. Maliki Yawmiddin. It's written in weird script, but otherwise it's Maliki Yawmiddin.
You say it's the same.
It's the same as the one above, unless it's not a script, it's not a type that I'm familiar with, but as I can see, it says Maliki Yawmiddin.
But can you
Okay.
see what Jews for Jesus is suggesting? Malik Ayyumiddin.
No one say Ayyum. All of them says Maliki Yawmi. Maliki Yawmi ad-Din.
But the point is, even after the Cairo version of 1924, Tunisia had the had the more different one. So just to destroy the notion by Muslims the Quran is anywhere, any time the same.
Yeah, but like
the content is not different.
Look, can I say the thing that is after, like things that comes like in the 20th century, and I mean that is cheating. What I am interested in is looking at really, really old stuff. So when we had this, so they have found certain things in Sana'a manuscript that where they use different words from today. So it's not just that it's a different qira'at. They really use different words. So the Muslims can get away and say, okay, but this is a different qira'at. But the good thing about like Sana'a manuscript is that it's different from all the qira'ats on certain.
The qira'at is the reading.
Yeah. So that's what I'm interested in.
This would be exactly this Tashkent and 1924 version where the one says yes, the other one says
the
no.
picture you showed me was very interesting, but I would like to see the original picture of that Quran, so I could go through it word by word from the direct page.
Well,
when I win the lottery, I'm going to do exactly that, because really, I would love to go on the Millionaire Show just to go to Tashkent and take a video of that page to really see the differences, to be able to compare it to 1924, because unfortunately, all I have available is this one photo.
Where is this? Which country?
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan. Can you... dude, maybe I can... but can anyone go there and see it?
Apparently, yes, because hardly anybody does.
Oh, but dude, I can pay someone to go there and take
Actually,
a
a friend of mine is right now in Bukhara. Maybe he can get there and take a video.
Yeah, that would be good. This is the one that goes there to that museum and take a video of that page will.
But I think there is a video. There is a video of somebody actually. Well, I'm not sure which page, but there is a video of somebody visiting this museum and actually showing this Quran.
That was my video.
Was it yours? Oh,
I made this video comparing the two, but it was deleted.
Oh, by the way, do you still have your channel, or
no,
a
it's
different
all
one with
gone.
all your? Okay, too bad, because I think we managed to save some of the Jinn&Tonic of the old shows. We managed to save them on archive, right?
I put them into archive. Yeah, that's right.
So there is still there must be still the video with this guy from the Khalifa, from Rashid Khalifa.
In Egypt, yeah.
There was a Quran only Muslim who introduced
This was Edip Yüksel.
Oh, you have a better memory in that.
Because I actually talked to him, because I used to be on a forum which was a Quranist forum. Because for me, the most honest version of Islam is the Quranist only. This is why I spent like maybe 2 years discussing things on this Quranist forum, and Edip Yüksel was there. But he was so afraid of me that he never managed to talk to me. And he only came on the show on the condition that I was not there. I don't know why he was so shit scared of me.
Well, who knows? But okay, that was it. So, and you posted this video about the guy turning pages into this Tashkent.
In this Tashkent, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, will you? Well, my friend is currently in Bukhara. That's in the same country at least, and I think he's planning to go to Tashkent as well.
Brilliant, absolutely, yeah. I remember correctly, it's 37103 where you have this. I need to check. I just need to verify this because I still have the paper, obviously. This is where you can see where the one says yes, the other one says no.
Okay. So let me know the verses, and maybe he will be able to check it. But I'm not sure that they will let anybody just turn the pages in this ancient manuscript. That would be a waste. It's not that mechanically stable, I think.
But any picture would be really appreciated.
Okay, which verse was that? So just let me know that I can ask him.
Stop spamming. What exact was it? But the more pages he can take pictures of, the better. Because then
Okay, I'm checking it now. Just give me 2 seconds.
So what I mean is, even if you don't manage to get that exact page, any page is of value.
Any page. Well, I ask him.
So just while we're waiting for stops, any thoughts for next week's show? Anybody in the chat or anybody here? Is there a thought for a topic for next week? Somebody asked in the chat about discussing the Kaaba itself, the history of the Kaaba, etc. And I mean, I did touch on that. I don't know if there's a deeper history to that that might be useful that somebody knows. It doesn't have to be a full-on presentation, and even sort of talking about it for 15, 20 minutes would be good.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you can look in the presentation, in the source file. I put this what's talked about in the Kaaba and this on this matter. It's just like 2 pages in the whole encyclopedia. It's not much because they have no clue where it really comes from and what else it should subscribe on it. But you have references there, and on this you can research if anybody wants.
Tom Holland talks about it also.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a useful topic. Ahmed is saying the chance of Islam being true, Rob. How does one evaluate that in a numeric way? I would say the chance of Islam being true if on the Dawkins scale is 0.1 or 1%, something like that. But how do you sort of back that up in the sense of giving evidence and then going, okay, that evidence suggests like 1% or 5%. It's a subjective thing.
True. I think you're generous.
You have to ask true on what? True on plague. True on what? Plagiarism or on worshipping Allah. I mean, what does it mean? True.
True as in Allah is the one God and he sent the messages down to Muhammad as it's exactly written in the Quran would be an interpretation of what's been asked.
0.
Then it's not true, no. Of course not.
I mean, we can never say we know for certain, but it's unlikely to be true. But how do you give that a number? Maybe somebody with, mathematical probability experience can somehow give a number.
I think it doesn't make sense to think of it like that.
Yeah, the question makes no sense at all. If you want to apply some numbers, you can also ask how warm is blue, or how wide is ice. I mean,
or we could address the question: why do we think? Each of us could give one reason as to why we think Islam is not true, or we believe Islam is not true. To be strict, if we're going to use philosophy and say, because none of us know for sure, philosophically speaking, we use the term know just because it's a way we normally speak in language, but really none of us know. So we're agnostic atheists unless somebody has got a,
No,
and it could
Rob,
be.
You're on this one. You're wrong. If you're talking about Islam, of course, we can say it's not true because the main source, the Quran, is full of nonsense and which makes no sense in today's life and which is shown to be wrong on many parts, etc. So, if we talk about Islam, we can say with certainty it's untrue. It's just not true.
Yeah, but there could be an Allah and it was just mistranslated.
But then it's not this Islam is portrayed, because the Islam portrayed today, it comes from the Quran and it's perfect. And already with this sentence, with this idea in the head, it falls everything apart. It makes no sense.
Well, here we go. I think this is the one I showed you last time, where the top one is the Tashkent version and the bottom one is the 1924 version in an older version. Okay, this is not the way that you see it today, because obviously today it's a bit more sophisticated than what this one is. But you can clearly see that there is a difference. There's an alif missing in the bottom one. So what it says in the top one in Tashkent, yes, they were Muslims, and the bottom one they're not. And I think, Abu, you can verify this by translating.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is the reason why I want to see the correct page, because
Exactly. Yeah,
because here it looks like something is missing after the lamb. On the
exactly. And this is the Tashkent version, which is missing this, which negates the whole contents of that sentence. And this is a photo. This is exactly what I took from a photo.
But is this a photo from the Tashkent?
This is a photo of the Tashkent, and the bottom one is an older historic version of the Quran.
So this upper thing is a real photo. It's not just an approximation.
No, it's a real photo. I've taken this from a photo of this.
Do you mean you have made this from a photo? Because it looks very white in the background, if you know.
No, I modified this so that they are the same. I've enhanced it to make it look the same.
Okay. Well, if that's real, then that means that, I mean, it looks like, obviously it's not the same, because they start with wama, which doesn't mean, it's not the same as falemma. But then you have this lam in the middle that seemed to be connected to a word that isn't really there. So, or if it is a lamb, maybe
the
it's
mu'minin. This is believers. What is missing?
Yeah. Salama.
Which surah is that? Is that the one that my friend should take a photo of?
Correct. This is 37-103.
37-103.
Now, I'm saying, shit, I need to verify this. I mean, I did this a long time ago. I need to verify that this is really this one.
Okay.
Yes, come on, I'm an old man, and you think now that all my brain cells are working 100%?
Okay, so, say it again for now. I'm just texting my friend in there. 31.
Like the one he killed, he was killed. People who fought who were killed. Okay, hang on. I will just verify this, and I will tell you just now.
I can try to find it also.
Okay, again, anybody in the thread or here, have we got a topic that would be useful for next week?
Yes, it's chapter 37-103, the Uthman edition, and they did not submit. I didn't, because it was a Cairo version. What is the opposite here? Are the differences in Arabic? The single page of the there's a lot. A word was added, not to change, but to enhance the meaning. The Tashkent Quran has the word he. The Cairo version was later changed to say Allah. So you see, this is he. And the one says he, the other one says Allah. The content is not that different, okay? So this is the difference, what you need to distinguish now if you are talking about differences. And this is what I call a variant. A variant is if it has different contents, not if it says he or Allah. That for me is not different contents. And yes, it is 37-103, so I was correct.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if he can take that photo, he's gonna be a hero of the Jinn&Tonic show.
Well, we have the photo, but it hasn't helped anybody. It's a pity I didn't keep the original, because when I made the video, I just kept the reference files, but not the sources.
But this is a request for everybody. If anybody can find pictures of old Qur'an manuscripts,
Stop spamming. You were also in the Berlin Museum too, or did you never visit that?
I was just going to say, there are different versions. It's not a challenge. It's not a big deal. You can find them. They are in Berlin. They are in different places. They are all over the show. The same as the London one. It's not a big deal. It's just that Muslims make a big deal out of it and say, this is a huge challenge. Please find any one difference. It's not. I don't understand this. It's just when, like what I had the last time, where, who was this idiot? Ahmed, who said, okay, give me the questions, give me the questions, give me the questions. So I gave him the questions, and then, when it came to the book, he said, well, if that is what it does, then I will reevaluate my belief. He did not do that. He immediately left. And then Saracen and Marshall carried on, and they said, well, there's not a contradiction there. No, there is not, there is not, there is not. So you can confront Muslims with it. But the point is, they will not agree with what it is that you are saying, because reality for them is Quran. And whatever is in the Quran supersedes whatever you show them in reality.
Because I made many photos in Berlin, not only of the Islam stuff, but I can't find right now. Because there I had also very many different versions and all kinds of Quran pages, etc. But I just can't find them now.
What do you mean discussing Muhammad's death? Why would people want to discuss Muhammad's death? It's just a fairy tale. It's just another story of some Jewish woman giving him some poisoned meat, and he couldn't even read the Quran, which tells him how to protect himself from poison, and then he dies without his God being able to do anything about it. Come on, please. How can you discuss this?
So there's just a few topics that people have suggested. Maybe we can get a consensus if anybody's interested. One is believing a choice? Number two, Rob, can you ask them if there's any panelists who would like to discuss Muhammad's death? Number three, Jinn would be an interesting topic. Or number four, or Michael Elcock, about the so-called scientists who admit the Quran must be from God. We talked about, didn't we, Stops, anyway?
Millions of times.
Yeah, so they've been discredited.
Okay, is believing, not discredited. No, it was a lie. The scientists never said what was claimed that they said. This is the point. It's the wrong way around.
Oh, right. I thought Keith Moore said some of the things that, he was fed the wrong information and
No. Sorry. Okay, I need to differentiate. There are two exceptions from this. One is Bouquet and one is Moore. Those two actually lied. Those have been discredited. All the others did not say what is claimed that they said.
Oh, so they've rejected the claims that were made in their name.
Kroner and all these other guys, they did not say that. Moore and Bouquet, there it's different.
Okay.
Is believing a choice? Well, yes and no. No, it's not. Yes, it is. I don't know.
No, from what I understand, believing is not a choice. You don't
No.
choose
I can believe. I can choose to believe by simply ignoring reality.
Yeah, but that's not an honest belief then, because now you're fooling yourself. So nobody here, if we are non-believers, or I ask the Muslims, see if any of us can believe in a God. No, we've got to be convinced in order to believe genuine. Otherwise, we're using Pascal's wager, which is obviously intellectually dishonest.
Well, try to believe that you can fly, or try to believe that you're a homosexual. Please.
Yeah, well, any of those things, or just believe, the sun goes, the sun goes around the earth, as an example. I mean, you can't choose to believe that. not honestly anyway, and actually take it on as a belief, like you believe the sun will rise or you'll take your next breath or something like that. But those are quite short shows. I mean, we can always talk about it, you know. I'm just looking to see if any of those would be worth a show in some way. What were we going to do, Abu, that you said you could do? Oh, talking about the is it the history of the Kaaba, or what did we say?
That at least we can talk about. There is something to say about that. Maybe it will be a short show, but
that's better. Okay. All right, let's do that. Let's do the history of the Kaaba, if you're okay to do that. And the following week, we'll maybe do a breakdown of a video, again, because some people like the critiquing a video. So at least we've got a couple of shows covered. And even if it's short, you know, we can always bring in other topics anyway, because it sort of follows on a little bit from this. And I'm sure you've covered it in some ways before, but, you know, why is there a black stone now? And there were 360 there was 360 gods, weren't there? There were a number of idols, and now there's only a stone, which seemingly seems to have been changed multiple times. Or is it the original stone? Because the pictures that Ike was showing seem to show two different pictures there from 1953 and 2016.
That now you're confusing this. That has nothing to do with the black stone. What you saw? Let me just. Where was it? Here.
Yeah.
It was just the devil stoning part. That has nothing to do with the Kaaba.
Got you. Sorry.
Today is has everything merged into one big ritual. But before this supposedly Muhammad came, it was like more or less 3 different rituals which had no connection at all. The Kaaba with the circling was the one for its own, and this stoning was for its own, and the visiting of this Arafat was also not really connected. So it has just merged to today's giant big ritual in one.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. Right. Okay. All right, cool. So let's do, you know, the history of the Kaaba. If Abu can share some thoughts on that, it doesn't have to be a long one, and then we can have a little bit of a chat around that. And then the week after we'll look at doing, just remind me, but the week after, or maybe I'll just set up 2 at the moment, then we'll do a critique. I'll look for a good video. If you guys have got a video, let's keep it to sort of 15 minutes, or we can do a half-hour video, but we'll probably cut it short, because if we're all on talking and commenting, that'll go on for hours anyway. But if we can find sort of a 15 to 30-minute video, you know, either Speaker's Corner or could be somewhere else, doesn't matter. And we can sort of critique that.
Would you like to read this long hadith of the day? Because this is related to what Ike was talking about this story coming from the Zoroastrian tradition.
Yeah, but this is the Miraj.
But isn't this that is stolen from the Zoroastrian tradition?
The night journey, you mean? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't this hadith like 4 pages or so?
Not 4 pages, but okay, we can take a short version, summary, just instead of reading all. Okay, the Book of Greetings, Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Who is there? He replied, Jibreel. He was asked, who is with you? He said, Muhammad. Then he ascended to the 2nd heaven and requested for the opening of the gate. He was asked, who is there? He said, Jibreel. He was asked, who is with you? He replied, Muhammad. In the same way, he ascended to the 3rd, 4th, and all the heavens, i.e. until the 7th. At all the gates, he was asked, who is there? He replied, Jibreel.
This is so stupid. Like somebody who on the opposite side of the gate says, who's there? He doesn't see who's there, but he can see somebody's with him. And then somebody says, well, who's there? Well, it's Muhammad. Muhammad who? I mean, you have millions of Muhammads. How does he know which one?
I'm picturing like some kind of guy, some kind of guard, like, what's now? And then he's like opening a little
Yeah, like in a
the
disco
window and looking out. Who's there? Yeah, this is part of the hadith. But the point is that story. Oh, that's another thing. If anyone can find the original Zoroastrian stories, we can compare them live.
Ah, this
That
I've
would
never
be-
found.
That would be good. But
Like I said, read the book of the righteous Viraf.
the righteous Viraf.
Yes.
Ike, we talk on Skype later about it, because that would be interesting too.
Because this book is not available in German, it's only available in as a translation in English. So there you can at least work with it.
Okay, all I want to say is thank you very much, Ike, for all the work you put in there. Because remember, guys, I just did the translation, okay? It was tough. Yes, it was shitty. Yes, it was horrible. I hated it. But I was just the translator. The research, all the original work, everything was due to Ike.
Yep, great job, Ike.
One part annoyed me at this translation. It was the translation in general was good. Just to say to everybody, I recognized myself in this translation. That says much. But one part did annoy me, that a little side joke, stop spamming deleted, because I said at one part about the shaving of the head and mentioned Rob there, and for some reason stop spamming and deleted this one. I don't know.
No problem. Well, you've said it now, so you've got it out anyway. I don't actually shave my head. Well, I kind of do, but just cut it very, very short. So I don't use a razor or anything like that. But yeah, that's no problem. I've got over not having much hair. It's all good. Got to get over these things.
Yeah, it's not something I'd kill myself over. It's true.
No.
You could take the Bible as a reference and pray to Yahweh, and maybe send some bears to shred me apart, because that was what Yahweh did with little children who mocked the balded one.
Yeah.
Or maybe science just comes up with a cure. Hey, they've supposedly had cures that have come and gone. I've never seen
it. The Bible has been proven wrong. But there's a sequence in the Quran as well, which says, okay, any believers can come together, bring in your, what does it say again? Bring in your family, bring in your daughters, bring in your wives, bring in your sons, and then let us pray together and curse the one who is lying about the Quran or something. So I wonder, how come they've never done this to me? How come I am not cursed? I mean, they could have done this according to the Quran, but nobody's done this. So all these instruction manuals are there. People just don't know how to follow them.
How do you know you're not cursed?
Yeah, it's also true. Yeah. Maybe I could be rich and beautiful. Yeah. Instead, I have the body of a god, Buddha.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? I think we've had a good show. 3 hours we're sitting at the moment. So
yeah, this was a good show.
Yeah, we didn't have any Muslims on. Maybe that was a good thing for this particular one. Otherwise, we could have gone on for a hell of a lot longer. But obviously,
don't forget, Jews for Jesus, that if your friend in Bukhara managed to take pictures, he will become a hero forever.
Yeah,
he will from the Hall of Fame.
I'll let him know. I'll let you know. But it will take a while until actually I get the pictures. But yeah, I don't know. I just sent him out a text. I hope he will do it.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, guys. Bye. See you next week.
Bye. Shalom.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Speak soon.
Bye.